Welcome to the Reticle Up podcast, where I, 3-Gun Kenzie, will be interviewing competitive shooters, hunters, fishermen, archers, entrepreneurs, and outdoorsmen. Come learn with me as I interview people from all walks of life, in different disciplines, all across the world, from novices to professionals of all ages. No matter what, everyone has something they can teach you, so come join me on the journey. Welcome back to the Reticle Up podcast. So I've got someone unique on today. Matt Hornback is a precision rifle competitor and industry marketing guy. So we kind of get along already. So Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I haven't done a podcast in a little bit, so I was excited to jump back on.
Yeah, I was looking that up. So I'm really excited. And obviously I am a noob when it comes to precision rifle. So this will be good for me.
For sure.
I like it. So before getting started in all of the competition stuff, I want to know a little bit more about your background. I know you served in the military, but can you share what branch and what did you do?
So I am still serving. So I'm in the Nevada Army National Guard. I was enlisted as an engineer, combat engineer, and then I decided to go what they call the dark side and commission and become an officer. Where right now I'm actually in a strange little unit called the Civil Support Team. So I'm basically in a chemical / WMD unit. It's really kind of weird. Every state's got one. So yeah, that's pretty much it right now. I'm doing that.
So what's your day-to-day like?
So actually, I kind of took a half step back from the industry and pursued the career active duty in the military, but I am still very much involved in the firearms industry. So you won't see me at a lot of trade shows anymore, but as far as traveling, doing matches, and then being contact for Modular Driven Technologies and sponsor and match related, that's still me. So yeah, I still have both feet in the door and then kind of just leading out the other side. So
that's awesome. So 2 questions then. Did you always know that you want to go into the military? And then did you plan this career that you have like on the side here?
So no, I actually in high school and college, I didn't want to pursue it. And then I graduated college and I was like, wow, that was very underwhelming. And so I decided to pursue something else a little different, and I had some very good role models that said, hey, why don't you give the military a try? So I did, and I went the National Guard route, which everyone kind of scratches their head and like, why would you go National Guard route? But it allowed me to have start an awesome career in the firearms industry and get my feet wet in that, as well as serving and then learning that whole, armed forces role as well, and really creating a wide breadth of knowledge. So it was completely different. And I've met awesome people in both worlds. So I'm happy I did it.
That's really cool. So for the National Guard, did you guys do like training with rifles and pistols, or where did the firearms come in?
So actually, I was gifted a slot to active duty sniper school in 2016. So that's where I kind of got my feet wet in the long range rifle world and met a ton of good people through that. And then that kind of really, once you do school like that, kind of opens the door because people kind of find commonality with you. And especially in the industry, I had no idea how many really very well trained, very good guys that are military related in the firearms industry. It makes sense, but you actually don't know that whole number. And then people start talking to you, and it really kind of validates, that you're, a little bit more than the average bear. So it helped. And then lots of surface weapon stuff, being combat engineer, trained a lot in explosives and mines and all that. And then I've always kind of been involved in competing in firearms. So yeah, it all just kind of goes hand in hand. I'm actually leaving this Friday to go shoot the Winston P. Wilson National Guard national competition in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas here, like Friday for a week. So
cool.
That's what I got going on with that. Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of standing in line and shooting groups, but it's cool.
What's your goal for that match?
So I did it 2 years ago. The last one they had, I believe, and I got like 82nd out of like 400 or something. It was a like ridiculous number of shooters there, but I had no idea what I was doing. We had it's all off the rack weapons. There's a lot of people shooting the new SIG M17. I saw the old clunky M9, and I held my own for a little bit. But yeah, when you travel to one of these matches, you better have your gear squared away. And I didn't even have an iron sight on my M16. So I ended up having to shoot and zero during the scored course of fire on the 400-yard line with my M16. That's how antiquated we are. We use M16. But yeah, no, it was good. My goal for this is just to beat my 82nd place last time. So if we can bump that up, now that I have a little more experience, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. But met a ton of good people, none of which are returning this year for some reason. But hope to see them soon. Yeah, everyone I contacted, hey, you shooting this year? Nope. So everyone's got something going on. So it is what it is.
It's funny. How salty are people when you beat them with those guns too?
You know, for the most part, that competition is kind of strange. It's not like a civilian competition. Mm-hmm. It's very military. And it's one of those where you have to shoot a lot on like yard lines, and then like your rifle portions or your reflexive fire, or you're shooting like 100, 200, 300, 400 yard lines and half the day. And then you're working the pits with the paper you roll up and down and score with the markers.
Okay.
You do that half the day. It's really, it's interesting, but it's also kind of boring because like I said, it's a lot of standing around, but it's pretty cool experience. If anybody in the National Guard is listening and your state's sending some teams the next year, definitely hop on that. Make your voice be known because it's actually a really cool experience. So I encourage a bunch of other people to jump on that. I'm taking 3 new guys this year, so it ought to be fun.
That's awesome that you're bringing new people too. Cool. Yep. Okay, so you talked a little bit about you work at Modular Driven Technologies, and I know you used to work at Legacy Sports International too. So how did actually all of that connection happen to work at those companies?
I had a friend that worked at Legacy in accounting, and they're local to me in Reno. And then I jumped on working the warehouse, then went to marketing, and then did a lot with product design and development. And then I just needed to change of pace and wanted to travel a bit more, and took a job with Modular Driven Technologies, an amazing company. They're out of Canada, but they also have some U.S. employees too. And I traveled and did the matches and worked in marketing and PR and doing content creation and advising, and I'm still contributing to all that. And then run the sponsorship program and the teams, and usually match directors are calling me trying to get some sponsorship swag thrown their way, which is cool. So I get a lot of really cool phone calls and really good relationships out of that all over the country. And we have a really amazing group of shooters worldwide. We don't really just we vet a lot of our shooters, so we have a really good relationship with them, and they reflect MDT's values. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's in a nutshell what I've been doing with them for the past a little over 2 years.
Wow. Okay. Where did the PR and media background come from? Like college, not military?
No. So I've always been into running a camera, doing video work, even though I don't really care for social media, I seem to know a whole lot about it.
I hope no one cares for social media, by the way.
It's one of those hard things to kind of really keep up with. The people that are good at it and have a huge following have invested a ton of time and energy. So just recognize that. That's for sure. There's no joke how they get the following they do.
Not over.
Yeah. So it all just kind of came together. Like I said, I started in marketing with a just amazing gentleman who's since passed on, Rick Homey at Legacy. He was just an amazing guy and mentor. And he fostered me and taught me a lot about the industry and a bunch of connections, and it was really cool. And then from there, you kind of learn how to walk the walk, talk the talk, and then wheel and deal in the marketing world of the firearms industry. Yeah. That's a lot of it. And then I would say the biggest thing that I've learned about marketing is not from the firearms industry. It's actually looking outwards and then talking to people in other realms, consumer electronics, medical, all that different stuff, but bringing those ideas and what they're doing in is definitely the progressive way to go about it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. We just have to
that's a topic for another time, because that's pretty mind-blowing.
Awesome. But okay, going back to what you said, I think there's a lot of shooters and a lot of sponsored shooters that I feel like fit in a couple different categories. Maybe you can correct me, where they're either that person that's like at the top of winning matches, right? So that's how they get recognized. Maybe they're really good at being a brand ambassador, influencer, affiliate. Then there's ones that really need to work on one of the two, or maybe they're the ones traveling. So what could maybe like shooters and sponsored shooters do to learn or, do a little bit better on social media?
Well, so there's been so many conversations with this, and I got to be like upfront about the whole shooter thing and being recognized and getting support, is you have to be a good person, respectable, have a very good, like you don't want to go anywhere and they go, oh, that guy or that girl. You want to have a positive reputation, and you want every single encounter you have, even if it's a negative situation, to have a positive ending. So that's my biggest advice. Even though you may not agree with something, it might happen in a match, it might happen in your personal life, it might happen social media. Just leave it as professional, as practical as possible, because that'll go a long way. Because that's a reputation that people always remember the bad. So I would start with that first before I really worry about, topping national matches and stuff, because your reputation has to carry you further than your match winnings. So that's huge. And when I say like MDT as a whole has been very selectful on who they have represent them, it's because they want people that represent the brand and carry the values as the company does. So that's huge. And as a shooter, if you're looking at a company to represent you, make sure that you align well with their values and what they represent. Because I have seen in the past shooters jump on teams and it has not worked out well for them because they just weren't the right fit or didn't align correctly, and it took a little bit for them to figure out. So it's an investment on both ends. So
it's got to be a win-win on both ends.
It does. Yeah, it does.
And I think the piece of it too, I'm sure you get it, because I represent a couple or do marketing for a couple of brands. How often do you get people that just want to try the product for free and be a sponsored shooter who has never bought it, doesn't believe in it, knows nothing about it? Like, hey, at least buy it first and make sure you actually would use it,
quite a bit, but it seems as of late, that's really kind of calmed down.
Yeah.
It used to be a lot. I mean, past 10 years or so, getting emails like, hey, I know XYZ, give me some product and I'll test it, or I'll give you my opinion. It's like, buddy, we did that 5 years ago and we're good. That's why we're selling it. But it not so much anymore. It's usually people buy into the companies now more than just a single product. So that's what I've seen, which further helps the relationship. So
that's awesome. Cool. So who taught you shoot guns? Was this military or was this prior?
No. So my family, I mean, I wish I could say it was a family thing, but it's not. So my family is actually a bunch of artists, musicians, and dabblers and tinkers of sorts. And firearms wasn't a major thing growing up. And I didn't actually own my first firearm until I was 18, 19, just getting to college. So, and then I wanted to hunt and get into that. And then I found competitive shooting. And then, oh boy, am I broke ever since. So, so that's kind of the progression. The teaching how to shoot is kind of, I don't know, I would say I was almost infatuated with it when I started shooting. I wanted to learn everything I could about it. And I kind of have tunnel vision on things. So I fixate on something and I beat the crap out of it. And that's just how my mind works. I know several people that are like that. They just have to be good at something when they apply themselves to it. So they exhaust all efforts, whether it's physical efforts, monetary efforts, or mental efforts. So it's kind of a combination, and that's how I rolled into it. It's almost like an addictive personality.
It is. People know that. I bring one person, a new match, they're like, oh, I get it. Like,
yeah, I get it. Yeah. I've gotten that so many times. And then people are like, why are you trying so hard to drag me to a match and shoot? I'm like, because you're having fun now. Wait till you see how much fun you have after today. Like, oh, I get it.
Yep. So, okay, you said 18 years old. Did you buy your first gun, or did someone give it to you? And do you remember what it was?
Yeah. I ended up buying, man, this is a 357 Colt Anaconda revolver, because I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, and I paid way too much for it and ended up selling it for nothing. And I had a 44 mag revolver after that, and I had the worst taste in firearms younger.
I love it.
So yeah. But actually my first firearms when I was younger, well, not younger, but when I was 18, 19, were like 22 rifles and stuff, but I can't really count those as much.
Yeah.
But the ones that really got me interested in actually owning firearms were those revolvers, and they were absolutely just cool. Terrible for a younger gun owner that was working at Walmart at the time to try to feed.
I'm trying to picture this. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
why is this? There's this, you didn't have any supervision, you know?
No, this is being young and having a little bit of money in your pocket and going, yeah, I'll buy that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's terrible choices. Like I said, I sold them all for way too cheap because I didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yep. And then my first precision rifle, I guess, I don't know, I built a bunch of rifles. My first dedicated builds were well into my late 20s. So 27, 20, well, I don't know, 28, 29. Whenever I finished sniper school was my gift to myself to build my own first rifle. So I could say my first formal instruction of shooting was definitely in the military, formal, right? But you learn lots of things informally. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the long range stuff, yeah, definitely sniper school. I did some lessons and learned for some people before I went to kind of get my head wrapped around what I was getting into. But there was definitely drinking from fire hose and learning that off of PowerPoint and some very good instructors there they got.
That's cool.
Oh.
You're a little bit deadly. Before we get into that too, I wanted to ask, are you kind of just this naturally talented shooter too?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that everyone has a way of learning and applying. So maybe my way is also a little bit more efficient at some things. I mean, there's so like, I consider myself like better than the average Joe with a pistol, but man, I go to some of these larger pistol matches and I just get my ass handed to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I thought I shot pretty well today. No, you didn't. Like,
you need to
compared
go.
to others,
You need to go to a skill challenge match against the 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds, and then
you just get whooped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've dabbled in that, and I just remember like thinking I was hot stuff the first time I went to Barry Steel match, and I brought my limited gun, iron sights, and that was the wrong call. I burned so much ammo. I was like, oh, I'm doing so good, and then I get the scores. I'm like, I'm terrible.
Terrible. Did you reload? Did you have to reload on a string of five?
All the time. I even brought some 170 sticks too, and it just like you burn through so much ammo. It's ridiculous, and you think you're shooting really fast, and you're just like, the buzzer goes off because you hit par time. You still have like half the steel left up. You're like, wow, like that. But that's kind of humbling. But no, I shot and traveled quite a bit doing the USPSA stuff and multi-gun. And like I said, I thought I was pretty good with the pistol. But no, you got to be able to be humbled a little bit to know your place in line. So and I don't get out as much anymore. Maybe once every couple months to shoot a USPSA match at the most. But like out today, I was practicing with my service weapon, M17. I burned through 300 rounds in about an hour just to get my wits back about me, so I'm not totally screwed when I go to Arkansas. So yeah, that was today. You
don't pay for ammo, do you?
No, I load it.
Okay, but do you pay for the loaded components?
Oh yeah. That's something I still have to hunt for. There's very few people that are gifted with that.
Yeah,
in the industry. They're very lucky people.
Yeah, they are. Okay, so what did you love about like the USPSA and multi-gun and all of those sports? Did you accomplish anything, in those before moving into the rifle?
So the biggest thing I learned about that is efficiency. Really, like that was what I picked up. Like the mental part of it, like how to deal with the timer shock and the brain dump from the timer, and then just how to be efficient in everything you do. And because that's the whole game, is just efficiency and accuracy, right? But it's where you win is you're super efficient. You're more efficient getting the points than anybody else. So that's what I picked up. I won a few local matches here and there and place high in division stuff. I mean, nothing too over the top though. I mean, I didn't pursue it as hard as I have been the rifle stuff.
Yeah.
So no, I do love it. I do enjoy doing it. I do really enjoy the people.
Yeah.
But I got to say, and I think we're going to touch on that later, at least I'd like to, about the people aspect of it. Because I have met and retained some really good friends through the USPSA and multi-gun community. So, but there are different type of folks too. Like every discipline I've gone and dabbled in, it seems like there's some similarities and there's some vast differences. So
I think you should go and roll up to an IDPA match with your revolvers.
Oh, I don't even own a revolver anymore. I've had so many of them, and I thought they were cool, but that was definitely like 15 years ago. So
I would pay to watch that though. Oh God.
I don't even own a fishing vest, so I can't do it.
Horrible.
I'm already out. So I'm against IDPA guys, but it ain't my cup of tea.
Yeah, no. I think it's interesting that USPSA can draw from concealment, but IDPA can't. Like,
yeah, it's really weird.
yeah.
I don't even understand all of it. I do know that locally years back they started a like carbine IDPA style match,
Okay.
and I went and did that and didn't follow any of their rules and still like cleaned up. So
That's
it
awesome.
was just kind of a weird thing, like whole reload from cover and only shooting the certain. I just blazed through everything like multi-gun style.
Oh yeah, they hate that.
Um, yeah, frowned upon.
That's all, absolutely. Okay, so I kind of dabbled in it recently, and we've got a club here. You've done NRL 22 and then you've match directed as well. Like, I don't even know when NRL 22 started. Like, can you speak to what that is if people are listening?
Yeah, so I have actually, um, from the inception of NRL, and I love Travis and Tyler and Scott. Those so Travis Ishida is the president of the National Rifle League. Then you have Tyler Frainer, who is the president and the originator of NRL 22. So I've been kind of involved with those great folks since it started, and heavily involved in NRL big matches, and then also the NRL 22. I run a local NRL 22. I've got an NRL Borders match, like regional match that I'm doing next month. And then I've shot, I don't know how many NRL 2-day matches all over the country. But great organization. And it started just as a way to get people into the precision rifle world who may only have access to a 100-yard range.
Yeah.
So that's really how it started, from my understanding. But I've been shooting that since it started, which has been 3-4 years now. It's been a while. Yeah, and it's amazing. That's a very large segment of rifle shooting now is the rimfire stuff. And you have people that are just dedicated to just doing rimfire. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a different beast. It's fun. It's like precision rifle matches, but it's kind of different in a way because the ammunition, the rifles and stuff is a little bit different, and the target and the things you have to do. It's a little bit different. And if anybody is trying to get into NRL 22 to save money on stuff, it doesn't last long. You end up using the cheap stuff like once, then you're hunting down Center X ammo for $12 for a box of 50 on the cheap end, and then throwing together an expensive rifle build. So
which are disgusting. When I found out those prices for a 22, yeah. Pass.
That's the conception of it. 22 is cheap. Well, I'm telling you, it's not really that cheap when you start getting into these match builds. So, and I've got friends that have the Anschutz rifles that were very expensive and throwing Night Force attackers and Loophole Mark V's and stuff on them, and expensive scopes. And I've seen Tangent Thetas on there that are $3,000-$4,000 on top of the 22. So it's a different world for sure.
So gross. Okay, but I just the money aspect. It's like, go ahead and just go into the big boy precision rifle league.
Yeah, well, I've got a pretty high end 22 build, but it's because I enjoy it so much, and I've kind of matched it up to kind of be like my center fire rifles. So when I pick it up and shoot it, it kind of feels the same. It's not the same because it's 22, but it kind of feels the same, and I feel at home on it. So
yeah.
And then running the 22 matches is super fun. Get a lot of new shooters. I have loaner rifles and ammo that I bring to all the matches, and there's a lot of match directors that do the same thing to try to grow it, because the biggest entry barrier that you have to the rifle world is the ammunition and the equipment. It's so expensive. Yes, and I'm never going to tell someone. There's two things I'm never going to tell someone that about precision rifle. It's not cheap, and it's not easy. Like, those are two. I'm not going to say it's easy or cheap ever. Like, it's not. So you have to know that going in. If you think you're just going to pick up a rifle and then hold center on everything and never learn anything, you're not going to hit anything. So you have to do your due diligence on that. You can't just show up and like, I'm going to have a good day and win today. That doesn't work that way.
No. I think go ahead.
But like I said, running the matches is super fun. I've run everything from occasional USPSA match to 3-gun to NRL 22 and the center fire stuff, some gas gun precision rifle matches I've been running up here in Reno. So that's one thing I can't advocate enough. If you're a good shooter and you have a good reputation in your local area, I would say step up and either help run matches or run a match. You will gain a new perspective on what's going on. Yep. And it'll actually help your game a little bit, because you'll start understanding how the hows and whys of the stuff. So that's a huge thing to do, is step up and become more involved. And the people need you. The other math directors need you. So that's my little piece of advice to anybody who's experienced.
I like it. Little legacy, you know, it does take a team. Yep. And you need to pass it on, because there's a lot. I mean, even ROing, calling hits, learning the tablets. I don't know why people are so fearful of touching things.
So that's the funny part in the precision rifle world. It's literally 2 buttons that says hit or miss. That's it. It's hit, miss, and approve. Like, that is it.
I know.
That's it. Like, there's no complicated anything to it. But I don't think that anybody listening to this podcast is going to be the ones that we're talking about. So take the time and show someone how to do it, for sure.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
Okay. So the moment we're all been waiting for. How did you end up finding your way into precision rifle shooting? So
through the Army and sniper school, and going through all that and figuring out, like, oh, this is how this is supposed to work. No, just like guessing how all this comes together and works, and how we put a little piece of lead and copper on a piece of steel, hundreds of yards away. Like, how does this actually work? Well, there's math and everything. It's actually not as complicated as you think it is. And then taking some private instruction here and there from really good people, and just lots of networking and finding local matches. Local matches are huge. That's what I would tell anybody to do when they're getting to this, is find some local matches and just show up and shoot the match and learn and ask questions, and hop on the struggle bus until you start getting it figured out, and you'll be fine. You'll enjoy it. And then also hunting. I wanted to be a better rifle shooter for hunting, because I think I owed it to the animal.
Yeah.
So, and that was one of my bigger pet peeves in the firearms industry, is that anti-mentality of just hold 6 inches over the deer's back. So that's pretty much what led me into it. Just training, learning how to use rifle, having the gear, and then finding local matches to do, and just failing miserably and humbling myself until I could get it figured out.
It takes a while for anything. You're not going to be overnight. Yeah. It's an investment. Have you ever bow hunted, by the way?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's
yep.
great.
And in the Midwest as well as Nevada. And I'll tell you that bow hunting here is not as fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of, it's when your success rate is in the single digit percentages, it's pretty tough. So let's just say I have a nice bow. I don't use it much. I was actually up helping a friend with his archery tag this last weekend in a little town, in a little mountain with not much habitat, but we were running the bucks everywhere. Just couldn't seal a deal. So it is what it is.
What about like elk tags out there?
Few and far between. If you can get an elk tag every 10 years, you're doing better than everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Digressed. So for precision rifle, like, how most people, they shoot couple different things and they find their thing. Like, what made you just fall in love with precision rifle shooting? Is it the math? Is it the ballistics? Is it the people? Like, what was that moment where you're like, oh, I love this?
Every aspect of it is difficult. Every aspect. Your equipment has to be solid. The ammunition you're shooting has to be very good. The other support equipment you're using has to be good. You have to be good with it. There's so much into it before you even send a round. That's what keeps me coming back, is that continued challenge. And then every time you go out is different. Mm-hmm. It's different conditions. You can go to shoot the same set of targets, same range, a day for a week, and it's going to be different. It's going to give you something that's just a little bit different that you have to figure out every time. And it's constantly changing. Shot to shot, it's changing. So you have to be very in tune with everything that's going on to be successful. And by successful, I mean putting that bullet where you want it. So that, I think that's what entertains me and keeps me into it. And then the whole process of load development and making sure your gear's squared away so you can send that bullet where you need to is pretty cool too. It's an ongoing thing. Loading ammo, load development, keep track of barrels and all that. It's pretty cool because it's an ongoing hobby. You don't just stick it in the corner until the next match. No, you're working on everything before your next match if you want to be successful. So I think that's what entertains me the most, is that constant that constant attention you have to give it.
Yeah. I was gonna say my NRL 22 experience. I shoot tac ops in 3-gun, so
Right.
like, all the bags and things was the worst part of it. So I've got this thing strapped here and this thing here, and I was like, this is too much. And then the bipod, and like there's too many gadgets and gizmos for me.
So yes, but the good thing about NRL 22 is it's one bag. Usually
not anymore.
Yes, or everyone uses like a Game Changer, a Fortune Cookie, or whatever other brand you want to use. That's some sort of positional, and then rear bag. It's kind of dual use. But if you get really good at just running your rifle, the bipod, in one bag, and that's all you need,
simplify.
That can solve 99% of the stage problems that you're going to encounter. Between those two things, a bipod and a bag, that's really all you need. And I run a one bag match every now and then. That's just like, I only let shooters use the one bag and their bipod, because the bipod's considered part of the rifle, and that's all they get. They don't get tripods, they don't get pillows, they don't get anything else. Like, this is what you have, and I've written these stages, so you don't need anything more than that. So figure out how to be efficient with that one bag. So and that's a lot of it's a pretty big misconception too, is people think they need to have all these bags. And I've been down that road. I was that guy at one point years back, and it definitely isn't that way. And I find myself just taking a medium Game Changer and my rifle with a bipod on it to a match, and that's all I need. That's it. There's very few circumstances where you're going to have to use anything else. So that would be something to focus on. Just get really good with that one bag and a bipod, and you'd be solid. You'd be solid. Keeping it simple.
Are you like me, where you have like I'm not going to point to it, but like a drawer full of bags and stuff that you never use?
Just right under my bench right here, I've got bins full of stuff. Bins. I
know. Holsters, mag pouches, caddies, things that didn't work out. It's just, they're there.
Yep. No, I've got tons of stuff over the years, and I'm kind of a hoarder, but everybody else gets use out of my extra stuff, so I don't feel bad about it.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people too, they think that, a lot of success comes overnight. But all of us as shooters know that that's not true. So can you tell us how your first shooting competition in precision rifle went?
So it was a local match here in Reno, and I showed up, and I kind of had an idea of what was going on. I'd practiced some. I'd watched a ton of videos and stuff that I could find on YouTube, because I do a ton of research beforehand. So I kind of understood how to lay my data out and how to manage those numbers. And I already had a Kestrel. I know how to use that. I had numbers that were lining up, and like I was pretty solid on my gear and my ammunition. Rifle was good to go. I had a solid 0. I didn't do too terribly bad, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So going into this, I went in with low expectations. I didn't do bad. I was top half of the field locally. And then I just went, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to see what I need to get out of this. And just remember my fundamentals and go back to the roots. And then just try to hit everything I aim at, rather than trying to speed through the stages and get all my rounds off. And it paid off. But I remember leaving that match with my head held high. I didn't have any oh shit moments or anything like that. So, I mean, these things happen where you can't control it. You have malfunctions, whatever, but that wasn't that. Luckily, I've always had good gear. And I will say, this is something I learned from multi-gun too. Having gear that runs is half the battle, is more than half the battle.
90%, yeah.
Yeah. You beat half the people that show up just if your gear runs. So that's a truth. So yeah, and then my first national competition was an NRL match in Washington, the JC Steel Challenge that Jake Vibert ran. Oh, he still runs that match, but that was amazing. That was like, oh my, because it was a way different atmosphere than the bigger USPSA and multi-gun matches. Like, it was just way different. The atmosphere was totally different. A little bit more laid back, a little bit more of you're an adult atmosphere, Everyone's carrying their rifles around. They're all unloaded, bolts back. Like, everyone's having a good time. You're a big boy. You set your rifle down. Yeah. Big boy rules. And it was really refreshing. No one had to hold your hand. Like, safety was on everybody. Not much direction was given. You were given the little booklet with the stage numbers and like, hey, go there. That's your stage, and walk along, do them in order. And and there's the target distances, and figure it out, man. You're an adult. And that was amazing. And I didn't do too bad either. I think I scored like 27th out of a couple hundred on that one.
You are not.
I did pretty well at that match. And I came back home just elated. Like it just like, okay, I can do this. So, and then I get to the point after that of like, wow, I don't know as much as I thought I did. So,
that's how I feel every single day in this industry, by the way. Like I know quite a bit and I know nothing.
Yeah. And you definitely have to learn how to be humble when you're doing all these. And then you realize that like, it's that whole progression curve, right? Like at the start, you progress like crazy, and then all of a sudden it tapers off and you're progressing a very minute amount after that. You have to be able to kind of recognize where you're at with all that before you call it quits. So yeah, no, that the path through the matches and stuff and competing is awesome, but you have to want to compete. You have to be that person. But I'm also the guy at the matches that's joking around and wanting to socialize and talk to everybody. So I know those competitors are out there that are just lockstep on everything that's in front of them, and they don't talk to anybody, and that's not me. That's never been...
We need jokes. If there's not shit talking or some sort of laughing, then it's like horrible for me.
There's gotta be shit talking and Sour Patch Kids in my squad. That's it.
Okay. Pickles.
Pickles. I'm okay with pickles. Okay. I think Texas has a thing for pickles at matches. That's what I've noticed.
Bring them to every single match. In fact, Double Star, they showed up to a 3-gun match with one of those Sam's Club giant jars of pickles.
That's cool.
It's like, thank y'all. I digress. Okay, going back to your first shooting experience, I want you to just speak to the newbies. So can you give them like the expectations of what they should go into their new match, like thinking, like realistically?
Realistically, have a realistic goal of, hey, I'm going to place in the top half. Hey, I'm going to do the best I can. Hey, I'm going to hit everything I aim at. If I time out on stages, oh well. If I have a question, I'm going to ask it. Not to the point where you're taking away from another competitor's performance or time, but there's an appropriate time and place to ask questions and get stuff sorted out. And the rifle world is much like the USPSA and multi-gun world, where if someone's struggling, someone's turning around and like, hey man, what's going on? What can I help you with? How can I straighten this out so you're having a better time? So it's still a common theme. But I mean, I offer so much to other shooters, like, hey, if you want to borrow my stuff, if you need help with something, hey, can I, give you some pointers afterwards? Like, hey, can I help you work through this problem? And I would just say, hey, if an experienced shooter turns around and wants to give you some sort of advice, at least hear them out. Whether you let it stick or not is obviously up to you, but at least hear them out. And be humble enough to accept, like, hey, I don't know what I don't know. So, and like I said, ask those questions. I get kind of bummed when new shooters don't ask questions. They come to like a local match or a regional match or something, and they obviously, they want to be good. They obviously enjoy it. They want to be there, and they don't ask any questions where they could benefit from that it would carry them forward. Because there's some shortcuts and stuff that you can pick up from very good shooters, just like all the other disciplines. All you have to do is talk to them. You pay them money, not anything. It's all part of the experience.
Yeah. The learning curve would be cut in half if a lot of people would just ask questions.
Yeah. That's it. And seek out information on their own. I think that's a lot of it in the rifle world is people don't seek out vetted information. And I don't mean going to the Facebook long range shooters group and asking a bunch of people that don't really know what they're doing the question you need answered. Definitely seek out the names that know what they're doing and shoot them a message, and you'd be really surprised to find that they're very nice and they'll help you and they will answer your question with the least amount of words possible, which is actually a very good sign. When you've got somebody that will answer your question in a few words and it makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but if they fire back with you need a 300 Win Mag, then I would definitely say don't ask that question.
Which we'll get into. That's awesome. Okay, so for you, did you hit a plateau? And like, if you did, what did you do to get out of that?
Yeah, I hit plateaus every match. Like, not one, like a specific time period. You get to that point where it's like, I know what I'm seeing, I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to blatantly ignore what's actually happening in front of me because my ego gets in the way. And if you're able to identify those, you'll get past it. I posted videos on Instagram just burning myself just to the ground of like, hey, idiot, like this happened and you just totally disregard it and it cost you. So yeah, I think those moments actually happen every time you go out.
Yeah.
Like every time. Like today, practicing my pistol, I'm like 25 yards on a full-size dipstick, and I cannot shoot a group at the center of this damn thing, and I'm throwing shots off the left side. I'm just like, why? What is going on? What am I doing wrong? So after 150 rounds, I figured out, hey, dummy, you're barely hanging onto the pistol. Why don't you squeeze a little tighter? And that fixed it. But it took a ton of rounds for that to happen. But I would say that would be it.
Yeah. And I think when people do that, on a side note, like when you're training and you're going through 150 rounds and 150 rounds of those are like not the right process, you're training yourself and training your subconscious to do that incorrectly. So, you shouldn't be training something that's going to be a bad habit. You should literally stop yourself, fix it, or come back another day,
Yep. And with the rifle world, it's something I tell a lot of people when they're getting into it is don't send that same mistake twice. Believe what's going on and make a correction and send the appropriate answer. So you have to be able to slow yourself down enough to recognize, hey, that wasn't right. What's right? Let's do that. Because I see a lot of people churning dirt, signing targets because they ignore the wind or what's actually going on with that bullet. And it just takes it right away. And you'll remember this if you shoot another NL22 match. Like I've missed 4 times off the right side of the target, barely. And I don't know why. Well, did you make a correction? No, I didn't. Oh, so you just expected it to go right. Like, yeah.
My problem, well, maybe not, is that I focus so well on the left side without wasted time. So I might be a lefty, not really, but I think it just, you focus harder.
Oh, shooting non-dominant.
Yeah. So I'm like miss, and then switch to the other shoulder, hit, and then go back.
Yeah, you're taking. It's because you're taking that extra little bit of time to make sure everything's good to go because you're taking that side seriously because you're more uncomfortable on that side. That's what happens.
Frustrating. Yeah, I know. First time, I knew I was going to suck, expect a timeout. Like you said, I try to get my hits as much as possible and like know my limits too. There's like a bonus stage and I'm just like, okay, I got 2 points. Let me just walk away.
That's the gambler's curse.
Yes. Well, because when he got 6 hits and he took himself back down to 0, he would have won the match.
Yep.
So know your limit.
That happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes if your limit's 1, it's 1. You got to know where that is.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to focus on the process of like a new shooter coming in, and all of the things they need to know to, like we said, lower the learning curve. So let's start. What do you recommend the first thing someone should do if they're interested in shooting precision rifle?
Don't have to do it. So there's this conception where like I can bring my hunting rifle and I'm going to get by, and I'm going to say if you're serious about doing it, buy the very best equipment that you can, because it will carry you further. Because if you show up with your hunting rifle that has a 3-round internal magazine and you're top loading, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
So like a lot of times, like I tell people that are kind of like, yeah, I got this, that, and I was like, well, do you have a 223 bolt gun that can take a mag? Well, yeah, I got that. Well, load some heavies and shoot 223. I mean, you're going to have a good time. And you'll actually learn about what's going on, and recoil won't beat you up. But buy the very best equipment that you can, and definitely seek out some training. And there's tons of people that offer good training. I don't have to listen to any of them, but and then go to those local matches for sure. But when you go to those local matches and you've got decent gear, make sure everything's squared away, everything's tight. You got a good zero for 22 LR, I do 50 yard zero. For center fire, it's always 100 yards. Make sure you've got a very solid zero. Talk to the match director beforehand, ask them questions, see if they'll let you pair up with somebody that will kind of help you along. You'd be surprised. No one asks these questions to the match directors. It's so easy. You just send them an email when you sign up, like, hey, I'm Brandon. Let them know. I don't let them know the day of, because then it's like kind of too late. They can't really do much for you other than kind of sticking you in a squad that might have some people that are friendly. That's pretty much it, right? So and then if I get those emails as a match director, I'm firing back with like, hey, what do you got for gear? What are you running? What do you need? What are your expectations? What do you not know? What can we help with come match day or beforehand? So
I think you need a checklist. I think you need to make a PDF, by the way.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, but I would say just ask those questions, talk to the match directors, and just, but don't have to do it. Don't, like I said, if you want to run a gas gun at if you're trying to be a crossover shooter like I've had, if you want to run a gas gun, just make sure you've got an optic that's appropriate and enough of the same lot of ammo. This is huge. The same ammo for the entire course of fire. I have so many people that show up with 20 rounds of this, 40 rounds of this, and then 10 rounds of this. And you're like, well, bud, this is not going to work out well. So just make sure if you've got an 80 round match, bring 100 rounds of the same ammo. That's my advice.
It's like a little bit hard this year. I was thinking about it. Like poor 300ers. My friend Patrick, I don't think he listens to this, but he would pick up all the shotgun shells from people on the shotgun runs. And literally at the end of the day, he would put it all in his vest, be like blue, white, red, green. You don't care.
Well, we used to do that. We used to do that a lot, just shoot them at the end of the day. But yeah.
No, at a major match. This was like,
You cannot do that with rifle ammo.
Oh,
let me tell you.
You
will get some not good results if you do that.
Too funny. Okay, you mentioned this at the beginning. Do you want to talk a little bit about the community? What is the community like in precision rifle? I've never been to, I don't think any of those matches yet.
So it can, it mirrors a lot. It can be a little cliquey, but if you just break the ice, tell people you're a new shooter, as if you're getting to this, you're going to a new area. I've traveled so many states and shot. I'm well over 20 some odd states to go shoot matches.
Yep.
And you meet new people every step of the way. And when I travel, I do like to squad with one or two people that I know from the area, just because I want to hang out with them. But for the most part, I don't care where I land. Throw me in a squad. I will hang out and shoot the shit with anybody. But it's really relaxed. Like I said, big boy rules. They're going to give you a safety brief, just like any other match you go to. They're going to tell you what they expect, and then it's you're on your own. And some matches will not have you share wind and dope and corrections, stuff like that. Some it's squad mentality, and you're working with a squad to kind of solve a problem. That it kind of goes both ways. So is what it is. But the squad, you're pretty tight. You stay together. You have your shooting order. It's like any other sort of match. The one thing you won't see a lot of is sharing rifles. Now, it's been my experience.
Barrel stuff, right? And you're in
and ammunition. You only bring so much, and you can't overheat the guns.
Yeah.
So I bring, like when I travel, I bring just enough ammo to complete the match and some extra rounds, just as oh shit rounds. I don't bring another 100 rounds. I don't bring another rifle. I don't do any of that. So there's
a backup rifle.
No, it's not a thing for me, at least.
What? Okay, no. You would hate to hear this. I'm 30 gun Kenzie, so I bring none of my shit now.
I've got a friend, a very good friend, Mr. Josh Bluff. He's the VP of sales for HS Precision Rifles. If he drives to a match, he drives the work truck, and I can't disclose.
I know.
Let's just say he brings a party.
Yep. Yeah. You have to.
so yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing, but no, I bring, if I drive, I have one rifle and some extra small gear and stuff if somebody needs anything, usually some extra MDT stuff, extra loophole scope, in case anybody wants to check stuff out. Magazines, always bring extra magazines. So I bring demo gear and stuff for matches for people to play with, because they'll always say, hey, Hornback, you got this new thing? You got it out yet? You got a prototype? Like, yeah, man, I got one in the truck. Let's go check it out. So that's usually what I do. I don't bring backup stuff. I just don't. I don't.
I'm not gonna jinx you. You have great stuff. But the other day, you're gonna be like, hey, Kenzie, I should have brought it back up. It'll happen one day.
Well, I mean, it has. I've had rifles go down in the past. It happens. It's part of the game.
Bring two.
So no. so my main rifle weighs about 22 pounds. Mm-hmm. If I add in another rifle, guess what? So the thing is, ammo does not go back and forth between other rifles.
Yeah.
They're always slightly different. So I wouldn't bring two different rifles because I would have to bring double the ammo, and traveling with that much ammunition is a huge pain.
Okay, that's true. Fine.
And it weighs a lot. So if you're flying on an airline that has the 11-pound limit, you reach that pretty quickly with most center fire cartridges.
Yeah. And your gun, one gun case, probably 30 pounds.
Over that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think about 50. Yeah, about 50 pounds.
Well, I've been reading a lot, also with the community, like, is changing a little bit where it's more female friendly. There's a lot more females getting into precision rifle series. There's not as much movement. Have you seen that like demographic grow?
You know, I haven't seen too many female shooters just jump in by themselves. It's usually they have someone that brings them in, whether it's a family member, a spouse, or boyfriend or something. It's usually that. I mean, there's one great female shooter that I know that jumped into it kind of by herself, and she's awesome, Marshawn. She's out of Washington. She's amazing. But she jumped in, it seemed like by herself, but usually everybody else has got a spouse or somebody that's tied into the rifle world, and that's how they get into it. I do see quite a bit of female shooters all over the country. You know, even more, I would say there's probably more female shooters in the rifle world, especially well-known ones, than the other disciplines.
Yeah.
The other mainstream disciplines, I should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's still not a huge number. It's not as many as it should be.
I know.
Because, and I will say this straight out, when I go work with females, and help train them and coach them through matches and stuff, I enjoy working with females far more than I enjoy working with males.
I'm an instructor as well. That's 100% across the board.
They don't have egos that get in the way. They like to ask questions. But I will say the negative thing is they need instant gratification.
Yeah, Jesus.
They have to have that result straight out. And when they have that result straight out, they're like, whoa, yes, I'm in it. And if they don't, it takes a little while. They kind of, all right, you're losing me. But it's very, very apparent when that happens. But yeah,
set that expectations. Again, though, it's like, hey, this is not overnight. You're gonna have to learn wind and ammo and loading and your gun and chrono and data and Kestrel and wind and keep going.
Yeah, but once you can help them with that, and then kind of the numbers thing with a shooter, you can help them manage that. You obviously can't pull the trigger for them, but you can help them with the mental end of it, and then show them how to do things and let them feel, get the feel for it. Show them what right looks like, how to manage that data, and they work into it. And at least a newer shooter or even a newer female shooter, doesn't matter. They get in and they can at least get half their rounds off on a stage. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, but I think there should be more females. Junior shooters, on the other hand, that's a different story. Juniors with centerfire rifles, a little more difficult. Some smaller juniors, I mean, they really have a problem pulling a heavy rifle around. There's some that do an amazing job.
Yeah.
But getting, the smaller ones in there, it's a little tougher. But we do have parents that bring, 8-10-year-olds, 8-10-12s to the NRL 22, and they help them with the positions and stuff, and they're allowed to coach them on the clock and everything, help them out. So cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But even that's tough because you got to keep that kid's interest all day, which is very hard.
That's very hard. Yeah. Very hard. And some adults.
Yeah, especially when it's not going their way.
No. Okay, so say someone is going to their very first match. I mean, obviously, they're probably going to need some coaching, mentorship, or whatever. But first match, what is like the minimum necessary tools, gear that someone needs to go out and shoot a match? They're on their own. Yeah.
Okay, and I've actually written a couple articles on this, but it's changed. I mean, my opinion on this has changed over the years. So I would say minimum, you need a cell phone with a ballistic app that you actually know how to use. Don't just, I have an app and it spits out numbers. Data for that rifle with that ammunition, that's huge. So not just what the app spits out, but what your bullet actually impacts. And I would say shoot the very farthest you can to get actual data, write it down. Your rifle, a bipod, a good first focal plane optic that's over 15 power, it will help you a lot.
Yeah.
A good solid bipod. I said bipod, but a solid one, not just a cheap $30 Chinese one, because they'll break on you. Mm-hmm. Just one decent bag, whatever you can afford, as far as like I said, a fortune cookie or game changer, something like that.
Medium size.
a backpack, and like I said, enough ammo of a single lot to last you the entire day or the entire weekend, whatever you're shooting, whether it's rimfire or centerfire. That will make your life a lot easier. A lot of shooters, if you have good data, drop data, you're good, because that's pretty consistent. It's only ever going to change plus or minus a tenth, within reason, if it's going to change. So then we can call that pretty much a constant, your drop. What's the biggest variable is the wind. So all day you should be focused on the wind and how to hit the target with the proper wind call for the distance and dealing with target size. You shouldn't have to fight drop data. You shouldn't have to figure that out as well, because if you're figuring out these two variables with your data, you are going to be miserable. You're going to be absolutely miserable. You're going to fight the entire way, and you're just going to get super frustrated. By the end of the day, you're like, I don't understand. I don't know why. But if you have your drop data figured out, it's one less thing.
Yeah.
And it requires a minimal amount of tweaking once you have solid numbers, say to 8,000-9,000 yards. And that's usually a good working range and you've got your ballistic solver. That's basically your memory piece to spit out the distances in between. And it all lines up. And then all I'm worrying about is wind, left and right. And I've got my data for a target, and I'm holding wind, and I'm seeing what that wind's doing, and I'm correcting to it. And away we go, and we're hitting targets.
Away we go. The other thing that people probably don't know, and it is obvious, I guess, in our world, but your rifling, like, is it to the right? Is it to the left? Are all of them consistently in precision rifle to the right? Or
like... Yeah, I'd say 99% of the barrels that are used are right-hand twist.
Okay.
Bartland barrels is the only one that I know. Maybe I don't. I'm gonna say, to my knowledge, the only one that's doing left-hand twist or any sort of gain twist. A gain twist is a slower rifling. It starts to a faster, so it gains that twist down the barrel. I think there's only one or two companies that are actually doing that. It's not common. Everything I use is just right-hand twist, and either 4 or 6 grooves. So cool. It's pretty standard.
Okay. Is barrel length standard as well in this game?
So that is kind of dependent on the cartridge.
Okay.
So there's these little kind of, I don't know, caliber cartridge factions. They all come up with a certain kind of formula that works based on everybody's experience. But usually you're hard pressed to find barrels that are shorter than 24 inch and standard bolt and match.
Okay.
And then you have some of the BR cartridges that people are running 26, 28, 30 inch barrels, but that's their cup of tea. That's what they do. Normally everything I shoot is 24 inch, just out of simplicity and for the sake of my gunsmith. So I tell them one thing, and because 6.5 Creed, 6x47, the 223s, like everything's just a 24 inch. Bam, 24 inch, and whatever load I come up with is the velocity it spits out, and I just deal with that. It doesn't matter. I don't chase numbers. I don't. And the experienced shooters will not go chasing speed to gain any sort of performance advantage. That's pretty common misconception, that you need the biggest, fastest thing on the planet to give you some sort of edge, and that's just not it. Yes, on paper it looks good, but it just doesn't do you any good for load stability, consistency, or recoil for that matter. You'll see a lot of these shooters that are shooting these matches are shooting little BR cartridges that don't have any recoil, but they're shooting very efficient, heavier 6mm bullets at a pretty moderate speed. Mm-hmm. Nothing that's blisteringly fast, just because they can catch it a little bit more in flight, and the recoil is not going to push them off target when they send that round, even in awkward positions. So that's really the way the game has progressed. Years ago, it used to be, heavy, fast 6mm and 6.5s, like pushing that 3,200 feet per second threshold. And now majority of the top shooters are shooting 6mm above 100, and I want to say 105 grain bullet at around 2,800 to 2,900. That's the sweet spot generally for those. And there's a myriad of different cartridges that accomplish that. So, but that's the trend right now. So
good to know. Again, new.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
But the majority of shooters at club matches and stuff are really trying to find something off the shelf that they can make to shoot well. And honestly, like, I've shot and I still shoot a ton of 6.5 Creedmoor, and I did get to spend one summer when I was doing some officer training in Fort Leonard, Missouri, one summer with the Missouri folks, and shot 5 months. And there was a match every weekend, sometimes 2 matches in that state within a couple hours drive from Fort Leonard Wood. And it was amazing. Made lots of great friends. The Most series is I'm going to put it up there as like the best state series, local series in the country. That one's amazing. And the people are amazing. Match directors are amazing. If you're in Missouri, around Missouri, you have a gem there. It's just stellar. But I shot nothing but factory Hornady 6.5 Creedmoor 140 grain, and I shot amazingly well with it.
Okay.
My version of amazingly well.
Sure.
But that whole time I was there, I never won a match though. I got second place a whole lot of times, but due to my own fault, I would throw a point or two away. But I shot nothing but factory ammo, and it was better than me. So
yeah.
And I shot the NRL championship with factory ammo on the way home from that, and did extremely well. And that was just all factory ammo. Not a single reloaded. What's that?
That's crazy that it's all factory. So it is doable with factory ammo.
Oh, 100%, 100%. You are dealing with such. I mean, there is a point to reloading. I reload everything now. I don't shoot much factory ammo at all. If I can choose to, just because I want to have that control over what I'm shooting.
Yeah.
When you buy factory ammo, you don't have that control. What you get is what you get. What it shoots is what it shoots. There's really not much you can do about it, because you can't change velocity. You can't really tune up that load. You can't really adjust seating depth. You can't do any of that stuff to make it shoot better. Mm-hmm. So what you get, the reason that people reload is economy. You get to save a little bit, but you get to make the cartridge you want to make. You can't go the cartridge that I shoot 6x47. You can't go buy that off the shelf. Peterson was making small runs of it, but I can't find it. 6 Dasher can't do that. 6BR, 6BRA, most of these common cartridges that are being shot, you can't just go buy. So you have to load it. And then those are extremely consistent cartridges. So, but the conception that I have to load for this game, no, you don't. You don't.
Okay.
You don't.
Didn't know that.
As long as you can manage your numbers, you totally don't have to reload for it.
Yeah, I think the whole sport is kind of math.
It is totally math. Yeah, 100%. I'm not saying you have to be good at math.
Yeah.
You don't have to be good at math. You just have to be very good at organizing your numbers and staying on top of your numbers. It's all numbers. It's nothing scary. I mean, just imagine if it was colors. You just stay on top of the colors. That's it.
I was gonna make a joke there. It says the Marine Corps in their crayon,
Yeah, true.
So
that's why you have to paint some of the targets.
What if they're colorblind?
Oh, you can't be colorblind in service. If they did, they got through somehow.
It's true. I mean, later on, okay. So in your opinion, what would be the best starter gun, if you can recommend them, and starter glass to get someone in the sport? And again, maybe the best they can buy, what are some good options out there for people? So
the industry as a whole has progressed pretty well over the last 2 years. The PRS production division actually has, in a way, promoted the factory rifles and making stuff that's specifically for precision rifle shooters. I mean, there's so many companies out there that offer something, but a good, thick, heavy barrel, a good, sturdy action, something that'll run you. And I hate to say this, but if you're serious about jumping in and getting a good starting point, $2,000 is what you're going to want to spend on a rifle bare minimum. There's several awesome options in that realm. I'm not saying that anything cheaper than that. I'm staying with brand names right now because I have a lot of ties everywhere in brand names, but that $2,000 mark is a good mark. Be prepared to spend that, and be prepared to spend that in glass. Okay. So right off the bat, we're looking at $4,000 to $5,000, and then a decent bipod. So obviously I'm going to recommend MDT products there. So something with an MDT chassis and the SkyPod, and I've shot Leupold scopes since the start. And I absolutely love that company and that glass. So, and I'm not just saying that. I shot Leupold scopes way before I was affiliated with them professionally, and I've always loved their products. So that would be my recommendation. There's so many good glass companies out there. There really is. There really isn't, above a certain price point, of course, there really isn't bad gear anymore. It's the industry as a whole has actually moved forward from the $20 Walmart special. So And thank goodness, because we have enough of that. So yeah, something that, it takes a detachable AI style magazine, because you're going to need 10, 12 rounds stage. And then, like I said, a good sturdy bipod, a rifle with a big old thick barrel. I shoot nothing but straight contours. I don't do contours anymore. So I shoot a 1 1/4 pipe, whatever. I just throw it on the action, and away we go. It's just get something nice and heavy and stable. Don't think you're going to go win matches with a 12-pound rifle, because I have yet to see that.
Ooh, that'd be horrible. So who should put the barrel, or who should put the gun together?
So with the boom of rifle shooting, and I can call it a boom because that's really what it's been. Yeah. There are so many good gunsmiths all over the country, local to you, around. Just talk to them beforehand. I have gotten to the point where I trust, one guy, and I buy my own chamber reamers, and I get my own barrels, and I supply him everything.
What is a chamber reamer?
So when you get further into this, I'm not saying like it is, if this is, you're building a custom rifle, you really want to talk to that gunsmith before you buy something. Yeah. And really discuss your needs, your desires. If you have a particular cartridge that you're shooting, make sure that they know a little bit about that cartridge and what you're trying to get out of it. Because if you go to Joe Bob's Gunsmithing, excuse me if there's a Joe Bob's Gunsmithing, but and he's never heard of the 6-dasher, or the 6BR, or never, maybe you want a 6.5 Creedmoor and he's against it, he hates it and thinks 308's the greatest thing on the planet. He's probably not going to be the best gunsmith for you to suit your needs. So there's so many out there, it's ridiculous. So many good ones, and they're not, I mean, you could swing a cat around and hit like 10 of them in the United States now.
But chamber reamer, still don't know what this thing is.
Chamber reamer, here, I'll pull one out. So for those watching the video, this is what drills the chamber. So it's like an internal, it's an internal cutter. It has these things called flutes, and this thing's pretty damn sharp, and it goes in, and this is basically the shape of the cartridge, and the lead and the throat right there. That's the inside of the chamber, because when you buy a barrel, it's just a rifle tube. It's got a little tiny hole and some rifling, the grooves and lands, and then this is what the gunsmith uses. It's like a drill bit, basically. They run in there, and then that carves out the inside of the chamber where the cartridge goes when you fire it. So these are to the specifications that I like to run, that I know, and I have my dimensions, and you'll get lucky sometimes, and gunsmiths will have the right reamer. But if you go to them and say, hey, I just want this, and you don't really do your due diligence, you could end up with something that you don't want. So if you're going to shoot nothing but factory ammo, make sure the reamer that they're going to use is suitable for that factory ammo. If you're going to reload and you already know what you're going to want out of it, then either do what I do and buy my own reamer. They're usually $150, and they last several barrels, and I get what I want out of them. But that's pretty advanced stuff. So
yeah.
If you're new to this and you haven't quite wrapped your head around this, just go buy a nice factory rifle and shoot factory ammo and be very happy about it.
What about a muzzle brake versus suppressor?
So I used to shoot suppressors and matches quite a bit, because I didn't like the backblast from the muzzle brakes, but they each give an advantage and a disadvantage. So the advantage of the suppressor is the reduced sound signature. It is the reduced blast. It doesn't kick up a bunch of stuff. I really like using them in field matches where I'm in sand and weird terrain and stuff. Or if I'm shooting with a partner, I actually like to have a can if situation permits. Because it's easier to communicate with them. You're not blowing each other out with muzzle brakes. But they do increase recoil over a brake. So there's that trade-off. The muzzle brake is very effective on reducing recoil. That shot impulse is dead right then. Once that gas leaves the barrel and the brake ports, it's done. That's it. With a can, it just slows down that gas release, and that's what a can does. It allows that gas to expand and slow down. That's how a can works in short term. You do get a little bit reduced recoil impulse. It's a little longer recoil impulse because that gas is staying than bleeding out the can. So it's a give and take. But I like running brakes because like I said, that shot impulse is dead, and I can see where that bullet goes, and I'm spotting the impact, or I'm watching trace. That is honestly half the battle legit. If you're not seeing where your bullet hits, you're not spotting trace. And trace, if you've never seen it or heard of this term before, trace is like the vapor trail the bullet leaves. So you'll actually see the bullet's flight path in the air. It's got some prismatic effects to it. Sun hits on that vapor trail, you can actually see it, and then you can watch the bullet land. That's when you know you have good conditions, so you can see trace and you can see your bullet land. So a break will allow you to do that a little bit better. Other people at the shooting range may hate you for it, but it's not their rifle.
Yeah, exactly. All of ours are just, don't be the RO that has to stand next to him.
Yeah, I know.
That's what it basically is. I forgot what I was going to ask. Oh, have you done the Kestrel thing where you get your data? I don't really know enough about it, but you know what I'm talking about, where they can actually give you the data from your gun or something.
So, okay, I think you're asking about two different things. So, are you talking about the Applied Ballistics mobile lab where they give you the drops?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. So that's a pretty cool thing. I have yet to do it, but I have a good friend that works there, Francis, Applied Ballistics, and he's done the custom curves. So if you're at a match where the Applied Ballistics mobile lab is at, they'll actually do custom curves. You'll shoot in their Doppler. Actually, it might be not be I don't want to speak out of turn here, but their system, let's say, will pick up and follow your bullet, and they'll create your own custom curve to input into your ballistic solver. So for that bullet, for that load, that bullet's very specific. That lot of bullet, that rifle, this is what it's doing. And so you have detailed data for your rifle, and it's very refined, but it's pretty cool. And you can use your Kestrel to tune that up. Very cool thing. But Kestrels are a different animal. You really have to. My advice, if you get into this and you buy a Kestrel, take the online classes.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Take them.
That's what I've done.
No one else knows Kestrels better than the people at Kestrel.
Right.
So if you think that Uncle Rico knows how to work a Kestrel, he may not as well as you think he does. So I've taken them. I take the beginner's one and advanced one, and I learn something new every time. And then talking to experienced shooters that rely on these things, they'll give you the shortcuts and the tips and tricks to kind of fix what you got going on. It's pretty cool. And I help people out with the Kestrels all the time. Like, give me that thing. Just the other day, I went and visited a friend. A good friend, Travis, he cut me up a bunch of old fire hoses. He's a fireman. He cut me up a bunch of old fire hoses, and he had his Kestrel in his hand. I'm in the parking lot of his fire station. I was like, give me your Kestrel. And so I'm looking, I was like, all right, we got to fix this, and that. And now he should be good to go. So,
that's really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, Kestrel's an amazing tool.
But you have to know how to use a tool, just like a firearm. If you don't know how to use it,
you have to turn it on more than once a month. Like it's amazing the stuff. It takes a little bit of effort, but you have to wrap your head around it and know. But you also, when you're getting into this, you have to have real data. You have to have, what is my gun? What is the bullet actually doing? I don't care what the digital part says. What is that bullet actually doing? I got a solid 100 yard zero. I'm shooting a target 1,000 yards. What's the actual data? Where is it hitting dead center? That's what matters. You can backwards calibrate the ballistic solver and the Kestrel to match that. That's what should be a goal. And then after that, you verify in, and bam, done. I've just helped you with your data. Done. It's that easy. And you're like, well, it's not that easy. No, there's a few more steps to it, but that's the premise of it. So you have to trust what's going on with the bullet. You have to use actual data, because a very smart man told me that the only good data is confirmed data. That's it. That's the only thing you can rely on. And,
who was that man?
Oh, one of my sniper instructors, and he is, for all intents and purposes, he's a genius in my eyes. So that has saved me so many times. Like, that's what this number really says on this device. Like, that's not what it actually is. What actually matters is what it's doing in real life.
Dang.
So,
okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that Applied Ballistics Lab, by the way, like something that costs, or you just show up and they do it?
So from my knowledge, if you're there to match, they'll just do it. Cool. If there's a fee, I don't think it's much at all. Yeah. But you can purchase the custom curves to the Applied Ballistics Kestrel and the app. It does cost through the app to get their pre-canned custom curves. I don't use the custom curves. I do it kind of myself based on drop data. I shoot far enough out, about 1,200 yards to line up that data. And then I just kind of tweak all my numbers to make a match. So
Jeez. Okay.
It's really not that bad of a process. You just got to spend some time on it.
Yeah. Okay. So skimming the surface, because we're already on that. What calibers do you recommend someone shoot? Like you said, there's some Joe Schmoes that'll tell you some wrong information. And then talk about the process of testing loads, having access to a chronograph, all of that good stuff.
So cartridges, if you're going to buy factory ammo and build a gun off factory ammo, buy the ammo first right now. Like, we are in a situation now that, yeah, it sucks. I don't want to be the reason that someone else can't find ammo, but if you're going to build a rifle, you need ammo, or else you're going to have a built rifle and nothing to shoot out of it. So maybe figure out what you're going to shoot first and buy that ammo if you can find it, and buy the same ammo. Don't just buy a bunch of different stuff. Just buy the ammunition. Now is so good. Even the cheap stuff's good. It really is. As long as it shoots consistently on your rifle, you're good. One of these well-built rifles, well-built factory rifles, they shoot really well. Like, it's not so much a thing anymore where you buy a 4-minute rifle. It's not the 70s anymore. So you just do that. Buy that. You got to know what you want to get into. I tend to steer people to 6.5 Creedmoor because it's so consistent. It's usually easy to find, and it carries more energy downrange. It does a little better in the wind. If someone's kind of on a budget, then I'll say build a heavy 223 and just shoot 223 for a while, so you can try to trade up. When you start getting the 6mm stuff, it starts getting expensive. More so than 6.5 or 223. If you want to shoot 308, awesome. There's a plethora of 308. I am not a 308 fanboy by any means. I've shot tons of it. I've got buckets full of 308 brass, but the recoil beats it up after a weekend. I don't care how heavy that rifle, it does beat you up after a weekend. And I know there's people that are probably listening to like, oh, my 308 doesn't recoil that bad. I'm sorry, but after 300 rounds after a full weekend, that wears on you. And when you can't see where your bullet goes, that's a problem. So 6 Creed's good. 6 GT, if you can, find, if you're going to load for it. I'm not aware of much factory ammo for that right now. 6 Creed you can find anywhere, but here's the thing with those 6mm, they do burn out barrels faster than 6.5s and 223s. So I've gotten some 6mm when I shot 6 Creed that I got 1,000 rounds out of 1,500 rounds, and they started going south, and I just pulled them. Okay. So it really depends on what that load is. That was a lot of factory ammo through that. So I shoot a lot of 6.5 Creed because I shoot a big heavy bullet and it does pretty well in the wind. And I have my little 6mm, my 6x47 that I've been shooting for a few years now, and I can do a bunch of different stuff. And there's so many good 6mm options out there. But figure out what you want to shoot, buy a lot of it. And I heard a good quote by a very, very, very good, like the top PRS and shooter right now, Morgan King. Dude is on it, and he had a good saying, and people don't like to hear this, but instead of buy once, cry once, it's buy a lot, cry a lot. That's the truth of it.
I like that. How many times? It's true. I was gonna say, how many times do you go through a barrel in like a year? And another question is reminding people, like, you would want to always reconfirm data in the new barrel because it's different.
Yeah, so I've got a bin of spent barrels, but I usually have 1 or 2 barrels for that cartridge waiting to be spun up. Like, I always have barrels ready to be built, or they're built and I just got to slap on the brand new. So I don't know if I'm shooting a lot. I'm 5-6 a year. It's not, like I said, it's not cheap. It's not. That's just the truth of it. You'll get, if you're shooting a lot of factory 6.5 Creed, you'll get 2,500, 3,000 rounds out of it before that barrel starts going south. 6mm, I mean, a good slow 6mm, 2,000 rounds plus maybe. That's so, the round counts on barrels is so, it's all over the place. You ask 10 different people, they're going to give you 10 different answers for it. So I just tell you my experience. I beat the crap out of my 223s, and I get 5,000 out of those before I just switch them out because it's time. And then the 6.5 Creeds, 2,500, I start looking at those become practice barrels. And then I throw a new one on the match rig, 6mm, I get about 2,000, then they start becoming practice barrels. So that's my method to it. And this is something I've talked to people about a different way to look at this. When you buy a gun, when you buy a barrel, buy enough ammunition or components to reload for that barrel. The barrel, yes, it's a sizable investment going in, but it's the only way to have consistency through that whole thing, so you're not just chasing and wasting dollars.
Yeah.
Yes, it's expensive up front. I get that. Well, how can I afford that? I'm sorry, I don't have that answer. But
sell your child.
You obviously got into this sport because you had some sort of expendable income. So
yeah.
No one's doing this because they're poor.
That's true.
So buy enough for that barrel. And I've told a few people that are not well versed with the whole precision rifle thing, and okay, that makes sense. Yes. And that's another thing that I wish someone would have told me from the start as well. Like, just spend the money up front, which is what I do now. So if I have a barrel, I buy a flat of bullets. I have enough powder to reload all those. I have new brass for that barrel. Like, it's just bam, done. And I don't have anything to worry about now. My load, once I find it, is done. And going to your question about the load development process, there's so many different little methods to this. I would tell you that my method is slightly different than anybody else's method. That person's method is sort of similar. That one, it's just, we all have different ways of skinning that cat to get to that final answer. And my final answer might be slightly different than that guy's final answer. So there's so many different ways. But I usually start brand new barrel, and I'll have some old loads from an old barrel that I'll shoot about 100 to 150 rounds. You don't start barrel load development or barrel ammo testing until about 100 rounds in. That barrel has to smooth out. The throat has to kind of burn in, clean it. And then after 100, 150 rounds, that barrel is what we call stable. So that velocity is going to be the same. The accuracy is going to be where it is. There's so many different opinions on barrel break-in, whether you do it or you don't. That's your business, not mine. I'll tell you that I don't do it. I just go out and shoot, and then I clean it. I don't know. I just don't find the time to do that. There's people that will do the shoot one clean round. Hey, if you got time for it, go ahead. I don't. That's your deal. Drink some coffee, kick your feet up, and then let that barrel cool down. That's your prerogative, not mine. I just go out and I practice with that barrel. I shoot it, and then I clean it, and then I'll start load development. And load development usually starts with a Saturday load development ladder, where I'm kind of mapping velocities and looking where the velocities go up and then plateau, and then they go up, and you'll start finding these little areas where the pressure is consistent through a couple of charge weights of powder. And then I dabble in that area. I'll load up like 5 rounds of some of the different charges and shoot them, see how they do, and then I'll pick the best one. And then sometimes I'll have to play with seating depth. Usually the bullets I'm using, I know where they're happy with my reamer, where they're going to be seated into the case. So I just load it, and if I have to tweak it, I tweak it. But like I said, once you have experience in a cartridge or have the same chamber design or use the same barrels, everything becomes easier later on. And it's very minimal changes. Like guys that shoot 6-dasher that have been using the same gunsmith and barrel and all that, it's like the same load every barrel with maybe minor variations to it, because they're using the same bullets, they're using the same everything. Or if you're shooting factory, that factory ammo is loaded to try to get as consistent as possible through the course of all the loads they load on that machine. So that's just it. Use the same stuff. You'll see a theme here. It's use the same thing for everything, and you'll have better results. There's guys that'll hop around different cartridges, different barrels, yada, 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 and they just spin their wheels on trying to figure it out. Just stick with one thing. It's so generic, but you just stick with one thing and burn it, and then shoot a couple barrels. I would say don't have an opinion about a cartridge until you actually burn out a barrel or two about it. So there's guys that'll shoot 500 rounds or something and say they don't like it. Well, I mean, that barrel still got life, shoot it. But hey, whatever, that's your cup of tea. And I will tell you that a lot of reloaders don't know as much as they think they do. Ask people about reloading. I have actually gone to, I would say, the rifle dark side of the world and talked to F-class shooters and Palma guys about reloading and their methods and how they're punching paper, getting accuracy out of rifle cartridges. And I have learned so much. It's ridiculous.
Cool.
These guys chase accuracy and numbers, and they know what their load does. It's more of a reloading sport than is a shooting sport. Yeah. Someone's going to hear that and get pissed off about it. But I've learned so much that it's ridiculous. So talk to people that actually know what they're doing and chase that if you need help. Don't just guess, and don't just cram some powder in some case and jam a bullet in there that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But there are tons of actually really good reloading classes and resources online and in person. You just have to seek out that information. But yeah, but the big takeaway here is if you're not committed to spending the time reloading, and that's lots of time and lots of money, just buy factory ammo.
Yep.
That's
Got it. Check.
That's it.
And keep a log. That was one of the things my friend taught me, is keep a log, because you're going to want to know life of the barrel, right? Like,
yeah. So I do it a different way. So I have a flat of bullets. Say that flat is 2,000 projectiles, or I have 2,000 primers set aside. I know how many rounds have gone through that barrel when I've consumed all of that. So that's another way of doing it. I don't necessarily.
You're such a dude.
I don't necessarily keep a log for that barrel, because the barrels I'm shooting, I don't run factory ammo through them right now. I'm just doing reloading, and I have in my supplies, I have stuff roped off for that barrel. So I know when I hit 2 things of primers and I'm loading that last little tray, I'm at 2,000. So
that's funny.
That's the simple way of doing it. If you
the boy way. This friend of mine's a girl.
You won't lose that notebook. Let me tell you, when it's 2 boxes of primers that cost you $50 to $70 a box. So
I bring a notebook down every match, write down my thoughts, and it's literally in my gun bag of stuff. So yeah.
So yeah, I do that with the matchbooks they give me, or the ones I print out for our local matches. And they usually have cuss words in them. So
yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Basically. Really.
Lots of bad notes to myself.
You got to take away the good with the bad, though. That's the biggest thing. You can't just go in a journal and like hate yourself.
Oh no, and I'll look over those matchbooks and I'm like, why was I retarded on this stage? Oh, that's why. Got it.
Oh man. Okay. The struggle point of this. Like right now I have 100 yards. Back home we can shoot up to 2,000 yards, right? So if a shooter like doesn't have access to 1,000 yards, what are they gonna do?
You want the truth, or do you want the nice version?
The truth.
I'll start with the truth. The truth is you're going to struggle a little bit, especially if a match you're going to or the setting you're going to shoot into is past that distance, because you don't have confirmed data. You can get close. You don't actually know what's happening. Say if I'm a shooter and I have a brand new rifle and I've got 100-yard range, yeah, cool. I can go shoot groups. I can do a little bit of practice, positionally or whatever at 100 yards. I can get a good solid 0, but that's all I can do. So I'm taking everything for at its face value. If I have a good chronograph, I'm taking that speed as a face value. I'm taking the manufacturer's word for a ballistic coefficient for that bullet at its face value. What my gun's doing at face value. That's all I got, because I don't have a way to verify any of that. That's the big thing. Conferred data is the only data that you can rely on. So yes, you can get close. You can get close to ballistic solvers. They're very good, but until you have that answer, you don't know.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
Yeah, that's what we want. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And a lot of people think like, yeah, I can just go 0 and get speeds. And yes, you will get close.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, if there's a 1 and a 1.5 MOA target at 1,000 yards, guess what, man? I wouldn't trust that number.
Yeah.
You might get lucky, but more often than not, you're gonna be off. Somehow you're gonna be off. That bullet probably won't be doing what you think it is past 300 yards. So, and when you can't, and in rifle matches, you can't make up points.
Yeah. Yep.
You can't.
Yep.
Once that round's sent, you can't unsend it. You can't there's no redo. So yeah, I would say try to drive a couple more hours and find somewhere that you can shoot further than 100 yards, which is very easy for me to say because we have 70 some odd percent public that can shoot every day. Back east, Midwest, that's not the case, and I get it, but you're gonna have to put in a little bit more effort if you want the results.
Yeah. Okay. So if they do have a distance, you're probably gonna say shoot as far as they can. What is like the longest shot they should confirm their gun with, like to prepare for competitions, or what is the longest that they're probably going to shoot in precision rifle?
So I've shot all the way to a mile at a PRS match. That's like
unheard of.
1 out of 10,000 rounds I've shot in a big competition, right? Like that is so few and far between. I would say if you know what your rifle's doing at 1,000 yards in, you are doing good. You are on the right track. My starting point's 1,000. I like to finish load development at 1,000. I like to shoot groups at 1,000 on steel and on paper at 1,000. So I know exactly what's going on, because you can pick up some points that people don't hit at 1,000. You know, that 900 to 1,200 range. Mm-hmm. So that's where, when you're kind of getting more experience, you're gonna spend a little time on is confirming that load data at 1,000 and knowing your water line, knowing, you know, is that rifle or is that load doing 5-6 inches at 1,000, or is it doing 12 inches at 1,000? What's my spread here? What am I looking at? How accurate is this load? So the working range for all these matches is usually, local matches, the working range is usually 400 to 600 yards. Okay. Big national matches, you're going to be working a little further than that. I would say, you know, 700 and 400 to 700 is probably your working range from the majority of your points. Mm-hmm. You know, you'll hardly ever have anything closer than 2 ever. Yeah. Ever. I actually shot a match where they had a target at 50 yards. It was a paper target, 50 yards.
There was someone else like, if you can't shoot,
and I was going, wait, what? You want me to do what? But yeah, it was funny how many people couldn't get scored on that target because they didn't know where they never shot that close in to figure out their scope height over what their scope height over bore actually was. So so anywhere, you know, 100 to 1,000 is good. If you can only get to 500, 400, that's fine. Just make sure that you are super precise at those distances. Like that's ass. Like make sure you you have the finest degree of precision at that range, and that'll help you out further. But as if you got an access to a range that has 1,200 yards, shoot 1,200 yards. Yeah. Access to a range is 300. Get a good water line, and
line. Keep saying water line. What is that? Okay.
So it's a generic term. It's a common term in the rifle world. So I don't know where it originated. I just know it's very common. And common. You'll when you go to these matches and hang around these people, you'll hear lots of common terms. Waterline is one of them. So a waterline is a line on a target that you want your bullets to make. So if you're aiming at the center of the target, you want all of your bullets, whether they're left or right, to hit the center of the target vertically. Okay. So if I have a very minimal vertical dispersion, that load's doing pretty well. And I want the least amount of vertical dispersion as possible at distance. So I'm only compensating for wind. I don't have this big error field basically vertically that I have to chase. So I'm chasing wind and vertical. Gotcha. So if I have a small target, I know that I need to make a good wind call to send it. And I know my correction left and right is going to be good. So I don't have to correct up and down, or I'm sending a round into that deviation pattern that's going to be outside of that target size. So it's giving me more of the target to play with. So waterline, so I paint water lines on my targets at distance. So I'll put a big full size dipstick, I'll paint it white, and then I'll take like a orange stripe right across the torso. I disregard the head, stripe right across the middle of the torso, and I'm putting my reticle on there, holding my wind, and I'm trying to hit that center line of the paint. And that's my water line on the target. And I'm trying to get that narrow as possible. So when I'm tweaking a load, I want that group size to shrink no more than like a 10th paul at 1,000 yards. So gotcha. That's an expectation, whether it's reality or not, it's two different things, but that's the idea. Okay. You don't want to have a target and hit the head and the feet, really, and the head and the left shoulder. You don't want that. That's not good. But if I am hitting a little left, little right, but everything's going dead center of the target vertically, I'm doing awesome. I'm doing good. That's good results.
With any gun though, if you're that far off, that's a barrel, that's a optic, that's a ammo. There's something wrong there.
You'd be surprised how many people just get excited because they hit the target and that's where they stop.
Oh boy. Okay. So I'll move on from that one. Do you shoot MOA or mills?
Mills. Mills. If you shoot in minutes, I'm sorry, you're wrong. No, I'm kidding. I can shoot in both. I still have minute scopes. I don't use them. I have them. It's so uncommon in the rifle world, practical rifle world, paper, they do different things. Like we just shoot in groups on paper. Yeah, they'll use minutes, and they'll use second focal plane. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's not what the precision practical rifle world's about. Counting to 10 is a lot faster and easier than counting in fractions.
Yep. Especially with the ruler. Yeah.
Well, it's all ruler, whether it's in units of mils or minutes or units of mat or Kenzie, it doesn't matter. As long as those units match up with something, you can speak them and you know them, that's fine. Yeah. But where minute shooters have a problem is when they go and they try to converse with people that shoot in mils, and maybe all they know is in mils, and they don't know the math to convert it to minutes, and the minutes guys don't know the math to convert mils to minutes. And then you've got this big cluster that you have to figure out. So I do this all the time at local matches. Some newer shooter come up and he's shooting in minutes. It always happens to be minutes. I don't know why. It's always minutes. What did you use to hit that target? Oh, I hit it shooting a 6.5 Creed with 0.6 left. What's that in minutes? Buddy, times it by 3.44 and you can get your ballpark minutes. Oh, why is that? Okay, it's basic math. Don't try to wrap your head around. Just write it down and do it. But if you shoot in mils and I turn around and I tell you that I hit with that and you're shooting the same cartridge, the same speed as me, then we can pretty much have universal dialogue back and forth. Yeah. An easier way to convey this is if you have somebody that's very well versed with their ballistic solver and they know how to adjust the wind values in the ballistic solver. I can turn around and I hit that target with a 5 mile an hour wind, and experienced shooters will talk that way. Like I hit it with a 5 mile an hour wind. Mm-hmm. Okay. That means that it was a 5 mile an hour wind from 90 degrees to the target. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what cartridge I'm shooting, I'm going to plug that into my ballistic solver and I'll get a number. Whether my number is the same as your number, it doesn't matter. It's what it's going to take for you to hit that target. So that's a different way that people talk about that. Yeah. So the biggest thing is that commonality in terms, the speaking terms of that ruler in front of your face, which is amazing. I want to teach people how to zero their rifle. I'm like, how many tenths or how many minutes are you from center? They go, I don't know. And they want to walk out there and use a tape measure and measure it.
Oh my God.
It blows my mind. I'm like, no, measure it. You have a ruler in front of your face.
Uh-huh. Oh. Like the target width, like someone's like, how big is that target? Well, it's this on this.
Yes. So when I learned how to do this in sniper school, we had the old loopholes on there, Mark IVs, that had minute turrets and mil reticles.
What?
So yes, that's a thing. And luckily we've evolved from that. The Army has, but it was measure in mils, dial in minutes, and it was terrible. But you had to be really good at that math.
That's why you're good at math. That's why you're good at this. I get it now. That's why.
Well, you had to learn. It was sink or swim. Yeah. And so you and your partner had to figure this out and how to talk that minutes and mils thing. It was a blessing and a curse at the same time. It was a blessing because like you had to learn both systems and understand both systems in order to make it work. But it was a curse because I have to do this fast and I have to talk to somebody else and I have to hit these things or else I go home. So it was a pain in the ass, but it's not as bad as people make it seem. If you shoot in minutes, the easiest thing to do is sell your minute scope and buy a mil scope. No, I get this all the time. I do online classes for my local club once a month, and we talk about shooting and we talk about everything. And we go over course of fire and everything and notes and questions. Yeah. Oh. Yep. So some I started doing. What's that?
I'll be local.
Okay, that's fine. I open it up to anybody who wants to hop on, but we talk about shooting and I help people through problems and we'll talk about a new topic every month. I actually had a guy from Applied Ballistics hop on and do a ballistic class with the app and stuff last month. It was pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, no, there's online training opportunities out there. Lots of people do them. You just have to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, minutes and mils, definitely mils.
Okay.
Long and short.
Okay, long and short. Yeah. Okay. Into the different stuff. Like, what is like the biggest misconception maybe like that people will have going into precision rifle, or are there any?
Okay. So man, I see two different types of people gravitate towards this central thing. I've got hunter guy going towards it. And I've got guy that shot competitively in other areas, go towards it. 2 types of people, bam, right in the center. So hunter guy that comes in and wants to get better with his rifle, doesn't know anything, doesn't know anything, doesn't know what he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And now he has to learn the rifle aspect and the game aspect.
Yeah.
That person usually has a harder time with it because they have to wrap their head around everything, but they already have some of the gear. They already know their way around the rifle. They're already pretty solid on that part. They know, and they have an expectation. So that person sometimes can be a little stubborn. That's fine. But they end up morphing. And then those guys, they end up, I think, sticking around a little longer because they already like rifles and want to get into that. And they get really good at it. And they improve themselves hunting. And they're able to ethically kill animals at a little bit farther distances than they normally would. And they have great success on that. And they're helping others and teaching others. It's an amazing thing. But their interest stems from their pursuit of game, which is an amazing thing. Thank you for those folks that come and do that. Yeah. Because that is super important to me. And I wish more people would acknowledge that. And then the other side is your competitive shooter that is looking for the new fix, the new adrenaline dump, the new way to spend money on gear. And I like that guy too, because I was that guy. But they have common misconceptions of, I can just show up with an expensive piece of equipment and win and go home. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. And they're a little bit stubborn too, because they don't want to learn, like they're all about the game and not so much the rifle stuff.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to put in the effort for that. They don't know how to dry fire for that. They don't know how to analyze a stage for that. They understand a timer. They understand they have a competitive need they need to fulfill, but they don't know how to get there. They don't understand that. They know they can pull a trigger really fast, and that's what they end up doing. So they come to these matches and they burn 10 rounds into the dirt, and then they're really surprised about where they placed.
Yeah.
And that sucks to watch. So it's 2 different worlds that I see. And I see it every month.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
With the local stuff. And you don't see that so much at the bigger matches because it takes a little bit of gumption to get to that point and to spend $1,000 to go shoot a big match.
A lot. Yeah. Okay. So if you could tell yourself from the competition world to do something early on to cut down like that learning curve, that experience, what would it have been?
Buy a lot of ammo. Just buy a lot of factory ammo and go shoot the hell out of it and go burn out barrels and never look back. So many things I've done out of just wanting to be cost effective when it ended up costing me more money. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and I've learned that several times in the other shooting disciplines as well, but every time it's been the same learning experience of, you should have just bought something decent to start with. You should have just bought XYZ. You should have just done this rather than building up to it. And you'll hear it a lot if you are around the guys that have the $10,000 rifles. It's like, yeah, I didn't trade up to this. You don't make more money off of trading up. You save up, you beg, borrow, and steal to get to that. And if you need to hold out for a couple months to get to that, then do that. Mm-hmm. Don't do the trade up thing, because it doesn't work.
It's fascinating. Even in different disciplines, people come to me and they ask me which I get, right? And I recommend exactly what they should get. The buy a lot, cry a lot. Okay, that's new. But then they'll go out and buy something else. And then no shit, 3 weeks later, I've had this happen just recently. They sold that and they bought the thing I told them to buy.
One of my favorite things in life is someone asking me my opinion on something and they do the exact opposite.
Thank you. I have like 7 people I want to write on the screen.
His favorite thing of all time, I get a message or phone call, hey, Hornback, what do you think about this? And I'll tell him like, hey, don't do that because it's a bad idea. Mm-hmm. Well, how can you say that? Because I've been there. I'm telling you. Oh, and then they show up with that. Come on. And they're miserable. It doesn't work, or it's not what they expected. It's like, I tried to help you.
Yep.
I tried.
Dumb. So dumb.
I tried, but whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like the people too that have been talking about it, right? You're the guy on Facebook, I'm sure, with your friends, your family, whatever, that come to you and they want to shoot. Hey man, I really want to come to a match. How many people say it all the time and have never shown up or gone to a match? You know what I mean?
So I'm a different kind of evil when it comes to that,
Mm-hmm.
because I will stick a rifle and ammo in your hands and take out all the excuses. And I've gotten a lot of people to show up, and I've taken all the excuses away.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if that day doesn't work for you, guess what? We got next month. Hey, if you're short on ammo, hey, guess what? I got you. Or I will find someone that will help you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I don't have a rifle. Well, guess what? I got a safe full. I like, if I'm not using their collecting dust, guess what? I have loaner rifles. I don't have a bag. I got a truck full of bags.
Try that, but there's still people that's like, dude, seriously? Like, I feel like they're just scared, or they don't want to have that embarrassment, right?
So
like,
what I tell them, so the few people that I have come across, I tell them like, hey, don't just humor me.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not something you're interested, just tell me you're not interested, and I will leave you alone. But if you keep telling me that, yeah, I want to do this, then guess what? You're still going to get my attention.
Yeah.
So, yeah, totally. But I generally try to take out all those answers. Those excuses.
We try
away.
to. We try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So going back to big boy rules, because you and I live in that world. There still are some match rules. I feel like that are probably important. Can you give just like the highlight reel of rule sets that they should probably know?
Okay. So I'll just do a couple of my pet peeves, because the general firearms rules always apply, right? You're 4, right? And everybody knows the 4 from like Eddie Eagle, right? So maybe some people don't know what Eddie Eagle is, but they can Google it. So those apply to anywhere you go with firearms. Got it. With the rifle world, bolt action rifles, you do everything. You move, you do everything. You carry your rifle with your bolt up, which means uncocked, and back, all the way back. And we use chamber flags. Those flags go in the chamber for a reason. So we have had instances where people sent around. They had a round in the chamber. We've had it. Yes. Because there was a round stuck in the chamber, because they half loaded it, and then the extractor didn't clip on, and there was a round in the chamber. They go to case their rifle. They pull the trigger and bam, sent around the parking lot. This has happened. Like, I'm not going to say it hasn't. These safety things, and luckily they're following the 4 steps, or at least some of them, and 2 of those rules didn't cross, and someone didn't get hurt, thank God. But so that's big. Bolt up and back. With semi-autos, just do what you're told and flip the safety on and off. That's it. In multi-gun, you get away with running around with the rifle with the safety. Some matches it's on, sometimes it's off. Hey, whatever, that's their rules. But in the precision rifle world, it's safety on when you move, and you don't load until you're told, obviously. Just follow that. And my biggest pet peeve is sky loading. You ever heard that term?
Sky loading, like load it while the
sky loading.
I'm assuming while it's pointed up.
So yes and no. Okay. So rifle world sky loading is, imagine like someone standing there in like old school, like offhand, where they're like standing up straight and they've got the rifle and they rack the bolt close and then bring the rifle down on target.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like pistols where they do that.
That's a no. That's a no-go.
Yeah.
So in the bolt gun world, we don't use our safeties. The safety is having the bolt up and back. It's not going to fire. Right. There's not going to be any mechanical failure that could happen to set off that rifle. The only way that rifle is going to shoot is if the bolt is closed and the firing pin is cocked back. Only way. So sky loading is closing that bolt on a live round when you are nowhere close to the target, or your face is not on the gun looking through the scope at the target. So I've seen people that go onto a barricade, put their rifle down, close the bolt, and then get on the rifle. That's sky loading. I've seen them go to the face, close the bolt, and then come down. That's sky loading, because I'm not anywhere close to the target, and the cartridges that we're shooting are big enough to cause some real damage and carry some energy downrange. That's why we shoot them. So that's a pet peeve of mine. Moving without the bolt up and back, big. But that's just generally it. And then there's this thing called suitcasing, and this will get you in trouble at a lot of ranges. Suitcasing. This is an actual term. So this is carrying the rifle around by the scope, like the scope's a handle.
Oh, I hate that. That's so painful.
So what happens is people start pointing rifles at each other.
Yeah.
So once again, one of your first 4 rules of firearm safety, that's a big one. So it depends on the range you go to, is the severity of breaking these. Some ranges will kind of give you a pass. Some will immediately kick you out. Some will give you a stage DQ. They'll tell you in the safety brief. They'll tell you in the match descriptions exactly what's expected of you. But generally, those are some taboo things in the rifle world. So if they're a little bit different than you're used to, just suck it up and follow it and say thank you. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Difficult part. You can kind of get into this because it's going to be way too much. Wind reading, wind calling, all of that. Something that you can teach, but it's something that really at the end of the day, someone's going to have to see for themselves. So I know you haven't named them, but are there any like resources, or what are the resources, classes, videos that people should go and learn how to wind read?
Applied Ballistics has some really good stuff on this, on how to read wind and deal with it. Formal training from a good instructor will get you this, but it will get you the premise of this. But you got to remember that dealing with wind is also just dealing with numbers. That's it. Because you're after a number to apply to the problem to get the solution you want. So it's just, and all wind is the best educated guess you can make at the time. That's it. It's the biggest variable that's based on weather and terrain. So what wind is doing over the terrain changes things, different times of the day, your wind mile per hour values, it all comes into play. The cartridge you shoot, like it's this conglomeration of frustrating
and you
scenario.
You love that, like you're a nerd.
Yes. Well, we all are. But that's what keeps it fun, because you have to figure it out every time, like I said, and then you'll get lucky and you'll send 2 rounds back to back that are the same wind call, or you'll shift 15 degrees and from that last target out to another one, it's totally different. Like it's wild. So you have to plan every target, every shot for the wind, but it's experience with your rifle that gets you there. So a lot of experienced shooters will go out and practice with 223s in the wind. I will say go out and shoot in a bunch of different wind conditions, so you know what visually it looks like to you and your rifle, so you can see mirage, the direction of the mirage waves. That's a good indicator of direction, sometimes speed, but you really have to be out there. And then the generic term, what wind matters, and it's all of it, from you to the target. So it's you have to go out and experience it, and you have to like to shoot in the wind. I like shooting in the wind. I shoot pretty well in the wind. We have wind out west. Midwest and east and south, not so much, because you've got natural tree breaks and it's naturally just not as windy there. The ranges here are big open land ranges with no trees, no cover, no nothing, not much terrain, besides some mountains in the background, but we have wind. So it's kind of funny. Some shooters I see travel a little bit and they struggle a little bit out west because we have wind, we have different terrain. They're not used to seeing what we see on a daily basis. So like a calm day here at my house is, 10 miles an hour. That's a calm day.
No, thank you.
But you have to shoot at times there's no wind too. So you know what that looks like, not just with gale force winds blowing your bullet everywhere. So yeah, wind's huge, but you have to experience it. I would say shooting the NL22, that will give you a pretty good idea of what wind does to a bullet, because it's happening at a much shorter distance, but it does have an effect, and you have to compensate for it. You can't just hold center on all those targets because it's not going to work out for you.
Yeah. My first experience was actually recently. I was in Texas, so I got the mirage effect, and then I had to see the wind here is different from, of course, the wind down there. And then that's what the rule of the measuring thing came into play. So I had like a, 5/10 target. So wind's going this far, I have 5 miles per hour, whatever. You're holding the left side because at some point you can hit it, I guess, based on the movement. I don't know. Just there's a lot to it that you have to know that the wind up where you're at is not going to be the same where you're down there.
Yeah, and the bullet will tell you that, right? But how you get to that first solution can happen a few ways, but you're really trying to find a range at which the wind is operating in. They call it a bracket, right? There's a high and a low, and you're trying to find the best middle ground of that high and low that you can use to hit the target. So if you have a wide target, say a target's 5/10, you're trying to find a window to use that's less than 5/10, so you can use that whole thing. So if say I have a 60-yard target, say, and the target's 5/10 wide, and some people listen to this, they might have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. You've got an X wide target at X distance, right? And I have a 4 to 6 mile an hour. Now, if I plug in and shoot a 5 mile an hour, I might get lucky. Mm-hmm. Now, where I hit that target, and if I hit heavy, that means I need to back down my wind. If I hit light and the bullet's moving a little too far because of the wind, then I'm going to add a little bit more, bump that number up to 6 mile an hour. So what that means is I'm trying to find that area I can bracket the target between two numbers to get the most real estate on that target. So I'm going to hit somewhere on that target. And then when I hit the target, I see where it hit or which way the plate turns, and I'm making a correction off that to get even closer to the center, the next shot, or the next target.
Yeah.
So what I teach a lot of people when they start to have their head wrapped around wind is a lot of times you can run, if you say all your targets are in a line, but they're all different distances, like say near to far, they call it troop line. If I find my wind on the first one, that's usually what I carry to the second one. So if I hit dead center with say an 8 mile an hour on the first one, I'm going to start with that 8 mile an hour on the second one. Now, if I hit left or right of that, I adjust my number for the next shot or the next target. Okay. So I carry that out. If I don't have any significant terrain in the way that's going to change that wind, I'll carry that number all the way out, whether it needs to be an 8, 9, 10 mile an hour, whatever it is. At least I have some educated guess of where to start, and I'm making little corrections back and forth from what I see where the bullet's striking. Yeah. Like I said, it's a constant just manipulation of your numbers that'll bring you. You're not trying to hit the edge of a target. You're trying to hit the dead center of a target.
Right. And that's half it, like you just said, is like, yeah, it's great if you don't know where you missed, then you can't correct. If you're not knowing where you're hitting, then you can't get that center. So half of it is knowing where your stuff's going. That's
the worst feeling in the world, when you miss and you have no idea where.
Yep.
So it's like, what do I do next? Yep. What's my next? Well, the bulk of the time you're not holding enough wind. That's I'm going to say the majority of the time shooters are not going to be holding enough wind. So your next step should probably be to jump up that target amount. So if I miss, I'm holding here and I miss, over here, I'm going to take that target with and add it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Make a large correction. So I drag that bullet that was over here to the center of this or somewhere on that plate to hit it. So I'm going to add it. And if that wasn't it, and I catch some trace or I catch an impact and that wasn't it, then I'm going to measure with my ruler and figure out where that bullet hit in relation to where I aimed. So now I've got a distance. Well, where I aimed was here, but it hit 0.8 to the right. Okay, well, I know now I need to drag that over X amount. Bam. Now I can get on target. So that's how you use the ruler distance. The same way as zeroing, right?
Yeah.
You're just sliding the ruler over to make the correction. So that's it.
That's it. That's all. Simple.
That's it. There's quicker ways to do that too. You can do the kind of the reticle push method. So if you barely, the truth of it is, like shooters that shoot these matches, if they miss, they're not missing by much. In all reality, it's minimal. It's barely missing. Like they're not missing by a whole truck length off a target.
Right.
They're missing, by less than foot, maybe 2. So it's not much in all reality. So you can take whatever your wind call is and then just drag it over to the edge of the target, send another one, and hopefully it'll land on that target. So that's an easier way to do that. You push the reticle over to the edge. So that's a quick way to make that bulk adjustment. Maybe that helps someone. Maybe it won't. Maybe I just lost some people.
I don't know. I got it. That's cool. That's really cool. Because I've already experienced this literally a month ago. So I was learning on 223 and then a Lapua. I don't know. Wasn't mine. It was cool.
Was it big or was it small?
It was big. Trying to remember.
A 338 Lapua?
Four something.
Oh, like a 416?
I'm gonna find out. Maybe we'll go to the next.
Sounds like a big cartridge. It's not fun to shoot.
It was fun. No. Okay. So do you have, as far as like dialing, typically, you get the stage, you know where to dial. Do you have like a dope card, or do you use a heads up display or anything on the gun?
So normally what I use is right here. And if you're just listening to this, it's, I use either the MDT dope card holder or the Hawk Hill dope card holders. And they either attach to the scope or the rail. And then it's just like a credit card blank that I have a wet erase marker, and it just kind of Velcros or clicks right on. And then I write my stage dope out, distance. It's usually distance. So target number, distance to that target, my dope needed to dial, and then my wind bracket, what I'm seeing for wind. So I have an idea of a high and a low. And then I do that for every target on down. And sometimes if I get creative and I need terrain association, I'll write little landmarks. Or if there's a complicated shooting order, I'll write the shooting order out so it's in front of my face, because it's usually attached to my rifle right under my scope, so I'm looking right at it.
Yeah.
So that's what I do to kind of keep track of it. There's a different method too. You can use the wrist coach, the arm board, and I carry an arm board with me, because if I've got a super windy match and I need to have wind tables on me, or I'm shooting a team match and I need to keep track of my partner's data, his wind and his dope for him, or I need to draw some diagrams and stuff for a field match, I can have both options. So there's different ways of managing those numbers, but data management's huge. It's huge because you have to be able to quickly reference those numbers in order to use them. That's
super cool. And you're not supposed to you're not pulling your head out of the scope too. You just kind of look off to the side, right?
Ever.
That was good.
You keep your face on the gun. That's like the hallmark of a new shooter is every time they shoot, they lift their head off the gun and put it back, or they run their bolt and they lift their head up. If you're shooting a scope on 18 power at a target 600 yards away, what are you seeing with your face off the gun? Nothing. You're not even actually looking at anything. You're just spacing out.
I can tell it was a frustration point.
It is, because it's like, and then when people start recognizing that they're doing, they're like, oh, I took my face off the gun. It's like, yeah, what'd you see? They're like, nothing. Like, I know. Because if you can see where your bullet hit that quickly at 600 yards with your face off the gun, man, you're on a different level.
You didn't do the follow through, and that's with everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
My friend can the action working is really hard, I guess. When your face is in there, you got to hit it with your purse, essentially.
There's something wrong there, because a good running action is buttery smooth and it doesn't require much force to lift it. So it should just be.
Yeah. Well, this was a stock gun. It was her first one. She was just getting used to it. So I think she was just learning. Yeah.
Tell her to dry fire the crap out of that gun.
She has sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I didn't put anything in there, but dry firing, what do you put in for that? Do you work off barricades, obviously bags? What all do you do for practice?
I like to say that I dry fire more than I do, but anymore, I just don't. Sometimes I'll pick up a rifle if I'm bored, and I've got a barricade in the garage, so this is kind of funny. When I was at Fort Leonard Wood, traveling around Missouri and a little bit of the Midwest, I had to keep my rifle and all the ammo and stuff off post, because I just couldn't deal with the armory and get it. So I actually rented a climate controlled storage unit and kept everything in there, lock key. It was double doored. It was awesome. And I would just drive off post 5 minutes, grab my stuff, and then head out for the weekend, Friday afternoon, go get an Airbnb or a nice hotel room, and then just, crash. And I would do hotel dry fire, and I would arrange the hotel furniture. I'd use the microwave, whatever I could in that hotel room, to get different levels and dry fire and get comfortable behind the rifle, because I only got to touch my rifle every week, and it was actually my release from all the training and stuff. So I still do that a bit when I travel, hotel rooms and stuff, and I'll dry fire.
A lot of us do, though. It's not crazy, but you move furniture.
Yeah, because actually, furniture, I do it in my house too. Furniture actually provides some really crappy situations to shoot off of. So it's pretty nice to be able to recreate some very unstable, very unorthodox shooting stuff to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of new shooters aren't happy about, is being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So work yourself into those weird, awkward, unstable positions and dry fire. So when you get there in a match, you're like, oh, I've done this before. Yeah. So that's what I like doing for dry fire. But like I said, I don't do it as much anymore, just because my schedule with work and travel and reloading takes up much of my time. So I spend a lot of my free time doing load prep and brass and things like,
so pretty,
piles of brass for different cartridges and different
Halloween, your candy.
Yeah, except I use broken Frankfurt Arsenal tumbler bowls. Got a few of those. So yeah, that's my dry fire stuff.
Okay,
that's it.
By the way, 6x47 Lapua.
Oh, that's what you shot?
Yeah,
little guy. That's what I shoot.
I have no idea. Okay, it was fun.
Yeah. No, little guy, little.
See, I don't really know what. Yeah, we're okay. You're a dude. It's little and small.
Yeah. Got no problem.
Okay, so wrapping this up too, the gap grind I know is something that is like an annual competition where pros and AMs can compete together and coaching's allowed. And I saw where like even an amateur could sign up who doesn't really have a professional, right? They haven't found a coach or a mentor. So how does that process look like? And have you been in the gap grind? Can you speak about it?
I have not been in the grind. It's something I haven't done yet. I just haven't put the effort to go into that. Everybody that I know goes and shoots that. But they will pair you with a new shooter. If you're a new shooter and you want to go shoot that, either hit up some people that are going so you can be a solid AM. Or email the match directors. It's Shannon K's facility there at Can-Am. So definitely a cool experience. Definitely do that. I mean, you're going to get paired with somebody good if you know them or not. So it's pretty awesome. But I will give the newbies, because I run a local, I've done 2 of them now, local level here in Reno, like a pro-am style team match. And I pair, either they come to me with their AM or I pair shooter with experience. And I know all the guys that are coming besides the newbies. But I will say, like, if you're planning on doing that, sign up for the match, get a hold of somebody, email the match director. They have ways of pairing people. But be the very best new partner that you can be. Come with solid gear that's shaken out. Don't present your partner problems so you guys can have the most fun. They'll help you. They'll get you where you need to be, but do your due diligence beforehand, because you already spent the money and you're going to travel and you can do all that, but do the back end work that's required of having the right ammo, having gear that runs, have your head wrapped around what needs to happen. That way you can give your partner a leg up so you're more effective and efficient, and just be the best partner you can be and listen to what they're telling you, and shoot in mills. So that's it.
I feel like too, being coachable and mentorable, whatever, by different people, because you might have learned something or somebody might have taught you something, and then you're going to have these conflicting things. Like you said, just kind of learn from them, see if you like their style, or you know what I mean? Like, they know their stuff, but you're going to hear different things from different people.
Oh yeah. A lot of this is like, just like reloading, there's so many different paths to get to the same answer. You just got to figure out what your style is. That's a truthism of life. Figure out what your style is, and then play your game. That's it.
Yeah.
All the shooting stuff is just play your game, shoot your match. So definitely take advice, digest it, take notes. When you go into those big matches though, man, it's like, whoa, it's a different world, especially if you're not used to competitive shooting. Like it's a big thing to take on. It's not easy.
That was my last question. So if somebody does sign up for the first big major match, they roll up, what should they expect as far as like ROs, what they need to bring for their, I don't know, vehicles, hydration, snacks, all the silly stuff that goes into it, but what should they expect?
So it's cool. So I'm a big fan of like destination matches. This is going to sound kind of weird, but I like to travel to matches that are very unique. Not like, man, I'm gonna dime some guys out, but like, I don't really like going to Oklahoma. I'm just going to say that. There's a lot of good shooters and good matches in Oklahoma, but it's not like a destination I enjoy going to. There's some really good people in Oklahoma, just like some people don't like coming to Nevada, and I get it.
Nevada's so fun. You can do so much there.
Yeah, everything's legal. Yeah. But I do like going to the matches like Montana, going to see friends in South Dakota, some of the places in Washington, the coast in California. There's a match that's coming on the coast in San Luis Obispo that I'm going to go to. Just pretty places that are just awesome to go to. It just makes the experience that much better than going to somewhere that's not as great and you spend all this money to go travel. I mean, be selective about the matches you're going to do. Obviously do what you can afford, but one of my favorite matches was actually the one that Philip Vallejo ran and Scott Satterley before it got shut down. It was the one in Wyoming, Cody, Wyoming, of all places. Amazing spot. It was held at the ranch that Kanye West bought.
What?
Yeah. So they had to stop running that match because Kanye West bought that ranch and he's not allowed it anymore. But that was probably one of my favorite spots to go. We stayed in this beautiful cabin on this private lake and this like resort hunting ranch. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. And I love that match. Not so much the match was good, But man, the whole weekend was just amazing because we got finished shooting and we're sitting on the front porch of this cabin, grilling up burgers, having a beer, just looking at this amazing scenery. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. It can be like a super fun experience besides the shooting. And that's what I'd say, like, yeah, enjoy the experience of the whole weekend, not just like the range time. And that's something that I've gotten out of it. To expect, like, some matches are, like I said, destination driven and they've got cool stuff, or they're very square range and they've got vendor tents and stuff for you to buy and see and people to talk to. And that's pretty cool. So generally how these matches are laid out, and I think this is part of where you're getting with this. So the bigger matches, you show up on Friday, you sign in at the venue, the match venue location, and they give you your match book and you go zero your rifle, make sure everything's good. Some matches have steel set up to shoot at, so you can dope out kind of some practice and stuff. Some matches don't have that. They just have a 100-yard board. Just depends on the range of the match director. And then Saturday morning, you show up usually early, 7 o'clock, 6:30, whenever that match director tells you, depends on time of year. And you do your safety brief and everything in the morning, and you walk your stages and you're shooting all day till 3, 4 o'clock. And then you go, and then this is the best part. The best part is after day one and you talk to anybody, doesn't matter if it's the person in last place or the person in first place, they all tell you they shot like shit. All of them.
Yeah.
The worst poker face thing on the planet. How'd you do today? Oh, not so great. Shot like shit. Everybody. Find me the guy that says, oh, I had a pretty good day today after day one. And they all say they didn't do it. But then day two rolls around, same thing as day one. And then usually finish up a little bit earlier on day two. Because everyone's motivated to roll through it, or you have less stages to shoot. Usually shoot about 10 to 12 stages on day one, and then 10, 12, it depends on the match, day two. Then you go and have the awards banquet thing. It's usually a pretty good catered meal, and you wait around, have some beer, eat some food, and they read off the names of where everyone plays, so you get to go walk the prize table or raffle, however they have that. Get your trophy if you're one of the good guys. Walk your prize table in order. They do RO recognition, some different awards and stuff, and then after that's all done, couple hours, everyone shakes hands and you get out. So that's usually the 2-day match experience. It's really cool. I will tell you that I was just completely blown away at the prize tables and the donations and stuff to the rifle matches compared to the pistol and multi-gun stuff.
It's moving to PR.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing. I was like, holy crap, they got whole rifles up there, not just one, but like, oh my God. And then like, I never seen a $3,000 scope on a prize table before. Like, there's 3 of them. What is this? And some matches I shot were actually cash back matches where they had checks sitting up there for quite a few people. Like, wow, that's pretty cool. And some different matches, they do stage prizes too. Like if you won a stage or a timed event or something, like that's pretty cool. Get to collect your stuff on that. So that's pretty cool. There's also stuff. Side matches are fun. They have this thing called a side match. I don't know if this has gained popularity or not in the multi-gun world. I've shot a couple multi-gun matches. So they have side matches on sign-up day where you walk up and then pay $5, something that usually goes to charity or something, and you win something cool if you got a fast time or high score.
Or challenge coin. We did have the mile somewhere. Can't remember. You got challenge coin.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Seen that. Yeah. So that's usually the experience. Now locals, a little different. You show up, you help set up, and you shoot, you score, and you pack up and you go home. And that's usually it.
No. You help clean up and break down.
Yeah. You take everything down. Okay, but there's one fundamental difference between shooting nothing but steel and shooting paper, is you don't have to tape and set.
Yeah. I know.
That's awesome.
It is, and it isn't. Like, what do you do during that downtime? You're just standing around.
No, wrong answer. You should
be reading the wind.
Correct answer. No, yes. So the correct answer is, if you're just standing around staring at dirt or trees, is you should be spotting, picking up brass, or ROing. Mm-hmm. Don't be the guy that's staring at the sun.
I just think there's so much less to do, I guess. I'm so used to.
There's not, though, because if I'm not tending to match stuff, or running a timer or sport pad, I am glued to my binoculars or spotting scope, whatever I brought with me to the match, and I am watching impacts.
Yeah.
I am watching what the bullets are doing.
That should be part of the gear. They need a spotting scope, binoculars, all that good stuff.
Yes, that's a very good thing to have. But that's a little farther down the line. I would say if you have that, bring it. Bino, spotting scope. I normally just bring a big tripod that you can shoot off of and use for positional work, as well as binos. And I use that all day. I carry that around all day. So that's a part of my gear that doesn't go with me. My gear and what an experienced or inexperienced shooter would bring is probably totally different. I am pretty minimalistic. I have my backpack with my ammo, my game changer, Kestrel's on my belt. I've got 2 mags on my belt. I've got my tripod with my binos in the scabbard of my backpack. I got my rifle, and that's about it.
Okay.
That's it. And if I expect weather, I'll throw a rain jacket or something in my backpack, and that's it. And and water and snacks. That's it.
Do y'all shoot in rain?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The people that don't shoot in rains, or in rain and wind and stuff, they're
not in it. They're not in it.
They're not in it. They're not dedicated. You got to shoot in all weather. That's part of the gig.
I agree.
I mean, the bullets fly the same. They go. So we have a particularly bad thing going on right now. I had to cancel 2 matches now locally because we have the wildfire smoke. The smoke is so bad that you can't see past 300-400 yards. You can't.
Yeah.
Fog is the same way. I've shot matches where we had to wait for the fog to roll out, then it comes back in, all that. But if you can't see the targets, I get it. But if you can see the targets and you just got a little bit of rain, then tough it up. Toughen up a little bit. Shoot in the rain. You'd be surprised.
Oh.
You'd be surprised at what you can do.
I know. So, Matt, any final thoughts you want to leave listeners with?
It's over 2 hours now. People hear me ramble about various stuff. Hopefully they pick up something. So I don't know, just hit the takeaways real quick. If you're gonna get into this, jump in both feet, and be dedicated to it, because you're not gonna get the instant results that you want. Buy a lot, cry a lot. Thanks Morgan King for that. And if you have questions, ask them. Like that's the big thing. Like I answer the same questions over and over and over, and I'll answer 1,000 more times. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Any shout outs you want to give to your sponsors?
Yeah, I've got 2 of the best in the industry. I've kind of narrowed it down, and I've got some really good friends at other companies. Always friends at Hornady are amazing people. HS Precision, amazing people. Josh Clough, I love that guy. He just got second at a National Rifle League match. It's his best finish ever. Love that guy. He's a trip. Of course, employee or my employer and great friends there at Modular Driven Technologies. You need a chassis, magazines, bipod, anything for precision rifle build, Modular Driven Technologies is your answer. And then, of course, Loophole, all my friends there. Great people, great products. Love the Mark V, especially the reticle. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. How can people find you online, on social media, website, all of that?
So Facebook, I'm a little slow to friend people, but if you shoot me a message, like I'm cool with it, I'll answer. Because man, I am so tired of political posts on Facebook that I'm getting really slow at or friend requests. So Instagram is the best way. 3 guns, 2 hands. It's really easy. The number 3 guns and the number 2 hands. On Instagram, it's pretty simple. I'm the dude with the picture of the rifle. So that's it. And I just want to say thank you. It's been a while since I got to talk to someone about a bunch of different rifle stuff. So thank you.
This was a lot of fun. And by the way, Gap Grind's like in my backyard of Tennessee. So when you come,
do it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna go and do the ballistics lab and watch and whatever. So.
Yeah, I definitely would. And I have a confession. Tennessee is actually one of the last states I have not been to. Somehow I have not been to Tennessee, and I've wanted to do Nashville and Memphis so bad. So I will let you know when I'm headed that way.
Please do. I'll come watch. Or better yet, try come shooting. I don't know.
Right on.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. And appreciate everybody listening.
Thanks for listening to the Reticle Up podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Follow along on social media at Reticle Up or 3 Gun Kenzie.